Joshua died desolate. No one but Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent two spies from Shittim, saying, "Go in." Joshua. Now after the death of his servant Moses, the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, you and all these people, and cross over the Jordan into the land that I am giving to the children of Israel. I have given you every place where the sole of your foot will tread, just as I promised to Moses. Your territory shall extend from the wilderness and Lebanon to the great river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and west as far as the great sea. No one shall stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so will I be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall give these people the inheritance of the land that I swore to their fathers I would give them. Above all, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to observe all the law that my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law must not depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. For then you will prosper and succeed in all you do. Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, "Go through the camp and tell the people, prepare your provisions, for within 3 days you will cross the Jordan to go in and take possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess." But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, "Remember what Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you when he said, 'The Lord your God will give you rest, and he will give you this land. Your wives, your young children, and your livestock may remain in the land that Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan. But all your mighty men of valor must be armed for battle, to cross over ahead of your brothers and help them, until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you. And your brothers also possess the land that the Lord your God is giving them. Then you may return to the land of your inheritance, and take possession of that which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the east side of the Jordan." So they answered Joshua, "Everything you have commanded us, we will do, and everywhere you send us, we will go. Just as we obeyed Moses in all things, so we will obey you. And may the Lord your God be with you, as he was with Moses. Anyone who rebels against your order and does not obey your words, all that you command him, will be put to death. Above all, be strong and courageous." Joshua 2. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim, saying, "Go inspect the land, especially Jericho." So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab, and stayed there. And it was reported to the king of Jericho, "Behold, some men of Israel have come here tonight to spy out the land." So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab and said, "Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, for they have come to spy out the whole land." But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. So she said, "Yes, the men did come to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when the gate was about to close, the men went out, and I do not know which way they went. Pursue them quickly, and you may catch them." But Rahab had taken them up to the roof and hidden them among the stalks that she had laid out there. So the king's men set out in pursuit of the spies along the road to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as they had gone out, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, Rahab went up on the roof and said to them, "I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that the fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who dwell in the land are melting in fear of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites across the Jordan, whom you devoted to destruction. When we heard this, our hearts melted, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in the heavens above and on the earth below. Now therefore, please swear to me by the Lord that you will indeed show kindness to my family, because I showed kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will deliver us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men agreed. If you do not report our mission, we will show you kindness and faithfulness when the Lord gives us the land. Then Rahab let them down by a rope through the window, since the house where she lived was built into the wall of the city. Go to the hill country, she said, so that your pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there for 3 days until they have returned. Then go on your way. The men said to her, We will not be bound by this oath you made us swear, unless, when we enter the land, you have tied this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down. And unless you have brought your father and mother and brothers and all your family into your house. If anyone goes out the door of your house into the street, his blood will be on his own head, and we will be innocent. But if a hand is laid on anyone with you in the house, his blood will be on our heads. And if you report our mission, we will be released from the oath you made us swear. Let it be as you say, she replied, and she sent them away. And when they had gone, she tied the scarlet cord in the window. So the spies went out into the hill country and stayed there 3 days, until their pursuers had returned without finding them, having searched all along the road. Then the 2 men started back, came down from the hill country, and crossed the river. So they came to Joshua son of Nun, and reported all that had happened to them. The Lord has surely delivered the entire land into our hands, they said to Joshua. Indeed, all who dwell in the land are melting in fear of us. Joshua 3. Early the next morning, Joshua got up and left Shittim with all the Israelites. They went as far as the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people, When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God being carried by the Levitical priests, you are to set out from your positions and follow it. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between yourselves and the ark. Do not go near it, so that you can see the way to go, since you have never traveled this way before. Then Joshua told the people, Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And he said to the priests, The ark of the covenant, and go on ahead of the people. So they carried the ark of the covenant and went ahead of them. Now the Lord said to Joshua, Today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, so that they may know that I am with you just as I was with Moses. Command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant, when you reach to the waters, stand in the Jordan. So Joshua told the Israelites, Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. He continued, This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will surely drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go ahead of you into the Jordan. Now choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. When the feet of the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, touch down in the waters of the Jordan, its flowing waters will be cut off and will stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carried the Ark of the Covenant ahead of them. Now the Jordan overflows its banks throughout the harvest season. But as soon as the priests carrying the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the flowing water stood still. It backed up as far upstream as Adam, a city in the area of Zarethan, while the water flowing toward the Sea of the Arabah, the Salt Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel crossed over the dry ground until the entire nation had crossed the Jordan. Joshua 4. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and command them, take up for yourselves 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, where the priests were standing. Carry them with you, and set them down in the place where you spend the night." So Joshua summoned the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Cross over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of Israel, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask, 'What do these stones mean to you?' you are to tell them, 'The waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters were cut off. Therefore these stones will be a memorial to the Israelites forever.'" Thus the Israelites did as Joshua had commanded them. They took up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, one for each tribe of Israel, just as the Lord had told Joshua. And they carried them to the camp, where they set them down. Joshua also set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, in the place where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant stood. And the stones are there to this day. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until the people had completed everything the Lord had commanded Joshua to tell them, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried across, and after everyone had finished crossing, the priests with the ark of the Lord crossed in the sight of the people. The Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over before the Israelites, armed for battle as Moses had instructed them. About 40,000 troops armed for battle crossed over before the Lord into the plains of Jericho. On that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they revered him all the days of his life, just as they had revered Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Command the priests who carry the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan." So Joshua commanded the priests, "Come up from the Jordan." When the priests carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord came up out of the Jordan, and their feet touched the dry land, the waters of the Jordan returned to their course and overflowed all the banks as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And there at Gilgal, Joshua set up the 12 stones they had taken from the Jordan. Then Joshua said to the Israelites, "In the future, when your children ask their fathers, 'What is the meaning of these stones?' you are to tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground.' For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, just as he did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, and so that you may always fear the Lord your God." Joshua 5. Now when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan, and all the Canaanite kings along the coast, heard how the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted, and their spirits failed for fear of the Israelites. At that time the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the sons of Israel once again." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the sons of Israel at Gibeath Haaraloth. This is why Joshua circumcised them. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of war, had died on the journey in the wilderness after they had left Egypt. Though all who had come out were circumcised, none of those born in the wilderness on the journey from Egypt had been circumcised. For the Israelites had wandered in the wilderness 40 years, until all the nation's men of war who had come out of Egypt had died, since they did not obey the Lord. So the Lord vowed never to let them see the land he had sworn to their fathers to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And Joshua raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones he circumcised. Until this time they were still uncircumcised, since they had not been circumcised along the way. And after all the nation had been circumcised, they stayed there in the camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." So that place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while the Israelites were camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, they kept the Passover. The day after the Passover, on that very day, they ate unleavened bread and roasted grain from the produce of the land. And the day after they had eaten from the produce of the land, the manna ceased. There was no more manna for the Israelites, so that year they began to eat the crops of the land of Canaan. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua approached him and asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied. "I have now come as commander of the Lord's army." Then Joshua fell face down in reverence and asked him, "What does my Lord have to say to his servant?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Joshua 6. Now Jericho was tightly shut up because of the Israelites. No one went out, and no one came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Behold, I have delivered Jericho into your hand, along with its king and its mighty men of valor. March around the city with all the men of war, circling the city one time. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry 7 ram's horns in front of the ark. Then, on the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, while the priests blow the horns. And when there is a long blast of the ram's horn, and you hear its sound, have all the people give a mighty shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and all your people will charge straight into the city." So Joshua son of Nun summoned the priests and said, "Take up the ark of the covenant, and have 7 priests carry 7 ram's horns in front of the ark of the Lord." And he told the people, "Advance and march around the city, with the armed troops going ahead of the ark of the Lord." After Joshua had spoken to the people, 7 priests carrying 7 ram's horns before the Lord advanced and blew the horns, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. While the horns continued to sound, the armed troops marched ahead of the priests who blew the horns, and the rear guard followed the ark. But Joshua had commanded the people, "Do not give a battle cry, or let your voice be heard. Do not let one word come out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you are to shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. And the people returned to the camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took the ark of the Lord. And the 7 priests carrying 7 ram's horns kept marching ahead of the ark of the Lord and blowing the horns. The armed troops went in front of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the horns kept sounding. So on the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. Then, on the seventh day, they got up at dawn and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. That was the only day they circled the city 7 times. After the 7th time around, the priests blew the horns, and Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." Now the city and everything in it must be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all those with her in her house will live, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the things devoted to destruction, lest you yourself be set apart for destruction. If you take any of these, you will set apart the camp of Israel for destruction, and bring disaster upon it. For all the silver and gold, and all the idols of bronze and iron, are holy to the Lord. They must go into his treasury. So when the ram's horn sounded, the people shouted. When they heard the blast of the horn, the people gave a great shout, and the wall collapsed. Then all the people charged straight into the city and captured it. At the edge of the sword, they devoted to destruction everything in the city, man and woman, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys. Meanwhile, Joshua told the 2 men who had spied out the land, "Go into the house of the prostitute, and bring out the woman and all who are with her, just as you promised her." So the young spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother and brothers, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her whole family and settled them outside the camp of Israel. Then the Israelites burned up the city and everything in it. However, they put the silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. And Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her father's household and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent to spy out Jericho. So she has lived among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Joshua invoked this solemn oath: "Cursed before the Lord is the man who rises up and rebuilds this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. Joshua 7. The Israelites, however, acted unfaithfully regarding the things devoted to destruction. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of what was set apart. So the anger of the Lord burned against the Israelites. Meanwhile, Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Beth-aven, to the east of Bethel, and told them, "Go up and spy out the land." So the men went up and spied out Ai. On returning to Joshua, they reported, "There is no need to send all the people. 2,000 or 3,000 men are enough to go up and attack Ai. Since the people of Ai are so few, you need not wear out all our people there." So about 3,000 men went up, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai struck down about 36 of them, chasing them from the gate as far as the quarries, and striking them down on the slopes. So the hearts of the people melted and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down before the ark of the Lord until evening, as did the elders of Israel. And they all sprinkled dust on their heads. "O Lord God," Joshua said, "why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to be destroyed? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. O Lord, what can I say, now that Israel has turned its back and run from its enemies? When the Canaanites and all who live in the land hear about this, they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. Then what will you do for your great name?" But the Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up. Why have you fallen on your face? Israel has sinned. They have transgressed the covenant that I commanded them, and they have taken some of what was devoted to destruction. Indeed, they have stolen and lied, and they have put these things with their own possessions. This is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They will turn their backs and run from their enemies, because they themselves have been set apart for destruction. I will no longer be with you unless you remove from among you whatever is devoted to destruction. Get up and consecrate the people, saying, 'Consecrate yourselves for tomorrow, for this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Among you, O Israel, there are things devoted to destruction. You cannot stand against your enemies until you remove them. In the morning you must present yourselves tribe by tribe. The tribe that the Lord selects shall come forward clan by clan, and the clan that the Lord selects shall come forward family by family, and the family that the Lord selects shall come forward man by man. The one who is caught with the things devoted to destruction must be burned, along with all that belongs to him, because he has transgressed the covenant of the Lord and committed an outrage in Israel." So Joshua arose early the next morning, and had Israel come forward tribe by tribe, and the tribe of Judah was selected. He had the clans of Judah come forward, and the clan of the Zerahites was selected. He had the clan of the Zerahites come forward, and the family of Zabdi was selected. And he had the family of Zabdi come forward, man by man, and Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was selected. So Joshua said to Achan, "My son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and make a confession to him. I urge you to tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me." "It is true," Achan replied. "I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I did. When I saw among the spoils a beautiful cloak from Shinar, 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent, with the silver underneath." So Joshua sent messengers who ran to the tent, and there it all was, hidden in his tent, with the silver underneath. They took the things from inside the tent, brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the cloak, the bar of gold, his sons and daughters, his oxen and donkeys and sheep, his tent, and everything else he owned, and brought them to the valley of Achor. "Why have you brought this trouble upon us?" said Joshua. "Today the Lord will bring trouble upon you." And all Israel stoned him to death. Then they stoned the others and burned their bodies. And they heaped over Achan a large pile of rocks that remains to this day. So the Lord turned from his burning anger. Therefore that place is called the Valley of Achor to this day. Joshua 8. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid or discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai. See, I have delivered into your hand the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. And you shall do to Ai and its king as you did to Jericho and its king, except that you may carry off their plunder and livestock for yourselves. Set up an ambush behind the city." So Joshua and the whole army set out to attack Ai. Joshua chose 30,000 mighty men of valor, and sent them out at night with these orders. Pay attention. You are to lie in ambush behind the city, not too far from it. All of you must be ready. Then I and all the troops with me will advance on the city. When they come out against us, as they did the first time, we will flee from them. They will pursue us until we have drawn them away from the city, for they will say, the Israelites are running away from us as they did before. So as we flee from them, you are to rise from the ambush and seize the city, for the Lord your God will deliver it into your hand. And when you have taken the city, set it on fire. Do as the Lord has commanded. See, I have given you orders. So Joshua sent them out, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai, to the west of Ai. But Joshua spent that night among the people. Joshua got up early the next morning and mobilized his men, and he and the elders of Israel marched before them up to Ai. Then all the troops who were with him marched up and approached the city. They arrived in front of Ai and camped to the north of it, with the valley between them and the city. Now Joshua had taken about 5,000 men and set up an ambush between Bethel and Ai to the west of the city. So the forces were stationed with the main camp to the north of the city and the rear guard to the west of the city. And that night Joshua went into the valley. When the king of Ai saw the Israelites, he hurried out early in the morning with the men of the city to engage them in battle at an appointed place overlooking the Arabah. But he did not know that an ambush had been set up against him behind the city. Joshua and all Israel let themselves be beaten back before them, and they fled toward the wilderness. Then all the men of Ai were summoned to pursue them, and they followed Joshua and were drawn away from the city. Not a man was left in Ai or Bethel who did not go out after Israel, leaving the city wide open while they pursued Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, Hold out your battle lance toward Ai, for into your hand I will deliver the city. So Joshua held out his battle lance toward Ai, and as soon as he did so, the men in ambush rose quickly from their position. They rushed forward, entered the city, captured it, and immediately set it on fire. When the men of Ai turned and looked back, the smoke of the city was rising into the sky. They could not escape in any direction, and the troops to the wilderness now became the pursuers. When Joshua and all Israel saw that the men in ambush had captured the city and that smoke was rising from it, they turned around and struck down the men of Ai. Meanwhile, those in the ambush came out of the city against them, and the men of Ai were trapped between the Israelite forces on both sides. So Israel struck them down until no survivor or fugitive remained. But they took the king of Ai alive and brought him to Joshua. When Israel had finished killing all the men of Ai who had pursued them into the field and wilderness, and when every last one of them had fallen by the sword, all the Israelites returned to Ai and put it to the sword as well. A total of 12,000 men and women fell that day, all the people of Ai. Joshua did not draw back the hand that held his battle lance until he had devoted to destruction all who lived in Ai. Israel took for themselves only the cattle and plunder of that city, as the Lord had commanded Joshua. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a permanent heap of ruins, a desolation to this day. He hung the king of Ai on a tree until evening, and at sunset Joshua commanded that they take down the body from the tree and throw it down at the entrance of the city gate. And over it they raised a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. At that time Joshua built an altar on Mount Ebal to the Lord, the God of Israel, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no iron tool has been used. and on it they offered burnt offerings to the Lord, and they sacrificed peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the Israelites, Joshua inscribed on the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he had written. All Israel, foreigners and citizens alike, with their elders, officers, and judges, stood on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. Half of the people stood in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded earlier, to bless the people of Israel. Afterward, Joshua read aloud all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, according to all that is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded that Joshua failed to read before the whole assembly of Israel, including the women, the little ones, and the foreigners who lived among them. Joshua 9. Now when news of this reached all the kings west of the Jordan, those in the hill country, the foothills, and all along the coast of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, they came together to wage war against Joshua and Israel. But the people of Gibeon, having heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, acted deceptively, and set out as envoys, carrying on their donkeys worn-out sacks and old wineskins, cracked and mended. They put worn, patched sandals on their feet, and threadbare clothing on their bodies, and their whole supply of bread was dry and moldy. They went to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and the men of Israel, "Come from a distant land. Please make a treaty with us." But the men of Israel said to the Hivites, "Perhaps you dwell near us. How can we make a treaty with you?" "We are your servants," they said to Joshua. Then Joshua asked them, "Who are you, and where have you come from?" "Your servants have come from a very distant land," they replied, "because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard the reports about him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites beyond the Jordan, Sihon king of Heshbon, and Og king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. So the elders and inhabitants of our land told us, 'Take provisions for your journey, go to meet them, and say to them, "We are your servants. Please make a treaty with us." This bread of ours was warm when we packed it at home on the day we left to come to you. But take a look, it is now dry and moldy. These wineskins were new when we filled them, but look, they are cracked. And these clothes and sandals are worn out from our very long journey." Then the men of Israel sampled their provisions, but did not seek the counsel of the Lord. And Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the congregation swore an oath to them. 3 days after they had made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites learned that they were neighbors, living among them. So the Israelites set out, and on the 3rd day arrived at their cities, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them, because the leaders of the congregation had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. And the whole congregation grumbled against the leaders. All the leaders answered, "We have sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel, and now we cannot touch them. This is how we will treat them. We will let them live, so that no wrath will fall on us because of the oath we swore to them." They continued, "Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers for the whole congregation." So the leaders kept their promise. Then Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said, "Why did you deceive us by telling us you live far away from us, when in fact you live among us? Now therefore you are under a curse, and will perpetually serve as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God." The Gibeonites answered, "Your servants were told clearly that the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and wipe out all its inhabitants before you. So we greatly feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we have done this. Now we are in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you." So Joshua did this, and delivered them from the hands of the Israelites, and they did not kill the Gibeonites. On that day he made them woodcutters and water carriers, as they are to this day, for the congregation of the Lord, and for the altar at the place he would choose. Joshua 10. Now Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured Ai and devoted it to destruction, doing to Ai and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were living near them. So Adonizedek and his people were greatly alarmed, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent word to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhiah, king of Lachish, and Deber, king of Eglon, saying, "Come up and help me. We will attack Gibeon, because they have made peace with Joshua and the Israelites." So the 5 kings of the Amorites, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces and advanced with all their armies. They camped before Gibeon and made war against it. Then the men of Gibeon sent word to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal, "Do not abandon your servants. Come quickly and save us. Help us, because all the kings of the Amorites from the hill country have joined forces against us." So Joshua and his whole army, including all the mighty men of valor, came from Gilgal. The Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them, for I have delivered them into your hand. Not one of them shall stand against you." After marching all night from Gilgal, Joshua caught them by surprise, and the Lord threw them into confusion before Israel, who defeated them in a great slaughter at Gibeon, pursued them along the ascent to Beth-horon, and struck them down as far as Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel along the descent from Beth-horon to Azekah, the Lord cast down on them large hailstones from the sky, and more of them were killed by the hailstones than by the swords of the Israelites. On the day that the Lord gave the Amorites over to the Israelites, Joshua spoke to the Lord in the presence of Israel. "O sun, stand still over Gibeon. O moon, over the valley of Aijalon." So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped until the nation took vengeance upon its enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and delayed going down about a full day. There has been no day like it before or since, when the Lord listened to the voice of a man, because the Lord fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal. Now the 5 kings had fled and hidden in the cave at Makkedah, and Joshua was informed, "The 5 kings have been found. They are hiding in the cave at Makkedah." So Joshua said, "Roll large stones against the mouth of the cave, and post men there to guard them. But you do not stop there. Pursue your enemies and attack them from behind. Do not let them reach their cities, for the Lord your God has delivered them into your hand." So Joshua and the Israelites continued to inflict a terrible slaughter until they had finished them off, and the remaining survivors retreated to the fortified cities. The whole army returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah, and no one dared to utter a word against the Israelites. Then Joshua said, "Open the mouth of the cave and bring those 5 kings out to me." So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they had brought the kings to Joshua, he summoned all the men of Israel, and said to the army commanders who had accompanied him, "Come here, and put your feet on the necks of these kings." So the commanders came forward and put their feet on their necks. "Do not be afraid or discouraged," Joshua said. "Be strong and courageous. The Lord will do this to all you fight." After this, Joshua struck down and killed the kings, and he hung their bodies on 5 trees and left them there until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered that they be taken down from the trees and thrown into the cave in which they had hidden. Then large stones were placed against the mouth of the cave, and the stones are there to this day. On that day, Joshua captured Makkedah and put it to the sword along with its king. He devoted to destruction everyone in the city, leaving no survivors. So he did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Makkedah to Libnah and fought against Libnah. And the Lord also delivered that city and its king into the hand of Israel. And Joshua put all the people to the sword, leaving no survivors. And he did to the king of Libnah as he had done to the king of Jericho. And Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Libnah to Lachish. They laid siege to it and fought against it. And the Lord delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel, and Joshua captured it on the 2nd day. He put all the people to the sword, just as he had done to Libnah. At that time, Horam king of Gezer went to help Lachish, but Joshua struck him down along with his people, leaving no survivors. So Joshua moved on from Lachish to Eglon, and all Israel with him. They laid siege to it and fought against it. That day they captured Eglon and put it to the sword, and Joshua devoted to destruction everyone in the city, just as he had done to Lachish. Then Joshua and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron, and fought against it. They captured it and put to the sword its king, all its villages, and all the people. Joshua left no survivors, just as he had done at Eglon. He devoted to destruction Hebron and everyone in it. Finally, Joshua and all Israel with him turned toward Debir and fought against it. And they captured Debir, its king, and all its villages. They put them to the sword and devoted to destruction everyone in the city, leaving no survivors. Joshua did to Debir and its king as he had done to Hebron, and as he had done to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered the whole region, the hill country, the Negev, the foothills, and the slopes, together with all their kings, leaving no survivors. He devoted to destruction everything that breathed, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua conquered the area from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and the whole region of Goshen as far as Gibeon. And because the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel, Joshua captured all these kings and their land in one campaign. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal. Joshua 11. Now when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard about these things, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to the kings of Shimron and Akshaph, to the kings of the north in the mountains, in the Arabah south of Kinnereth, in the foothills, and in Naphoth Dor to the west, to the Canaanites in the east and west, to the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, and Jebusites in the hill country, and to the Hivites at the foot of Hermon in the land of Mizpah. So these kings came out with all their armies, a multitude as numerous as the sand on the seashore, along with a great number of horses and chariots. All these kings joined forces and encamped at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them, for by this time tomorrow I will deliver all of them slain before Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn up their chariots." So by the waters of Merom, Joshua and his whole army came upon them suddenly and attacked them. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Israel, who struck them down and pursued them all the way to Greater Sidon and Mizrephoth-Maim, and eastward as far as the valley of Mizpah. They struck them down, leaving no survivors. Joshua treated them as the Lord had told him. He hamstrung their horses and burned up their chariots. At that time Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword, because Hazor was formerly the head of all these kingdoms. The Israelites put everyone in Hazor to the sword, devoting them to destruction. Nothing that breathed remained, and Joshua burned down Hazor itself. Joshua captured all these kings and their cities and put them to the sword. He devoted them to destruction, as Moses, the Lord's servant, had commanded. Yet Israel did not burn any of the cities built on their mounds, except Hazor, which Joshua burned. The Israelites took for themselves all the plunder and livestock of these cities, but they put all the people to the sword until they had completely destroyed them, not sparing anyone who breathed. As the Lord had commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua. That is what Joshua did, leaving nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So Joshua took this entire region, the hill country, all the Negev, all the land of Goshen, the western foothills, the Arabah, and the mountains of Israel and their foothills, from Mount Halak, which rises toward Seir, as far as Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, at the foot of Mount Hermon. He captured all their kings and struck them down, putting them to death. Joshua waged war against all these kings for a long period of time. No city made peace with the Israelites except the Hivites living in Gibeon. All others were taken in battle. For it was of the Lord to harden their hearts to engage Israel in battle, so that they would be set apart for destruction and would receive no mercy, being annihilated as the Lord had commanded Moses. At that time Joshua proceeded to eliminate the Anakim from the hill country of Hebron, Debir, and Anab, and from all the hill country of Judah and of Israel. Joshua devoted them to destruction along with their cities. No Anakim were left in the land of the Israelites. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did any survive. So Joshua took the entire land, in keeping with all that the Lord had spoken to Moses. And Joshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel, according to the allotments to their tribes. Then the land had rest from war. Joshua 12. Now these are the kings of the land whom the Israelites struck down, and whose lands they took beyond the Jordan to the east, from the Arnon valley to Mount Hermon, including all the Arabah eastward. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. He ruled from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon valley, along the middle of the valley, up to the Jabbok river, the border of the Ammonites, that is, half of Gilead, as well as the Arabah east of the Sea of Kinnereth to the Sea of the Arabah, the Salt Sea, eastward through Beth Jeshimoth, and southward below the slopes of Pisgah. And Og, king of Bashan, one of the remnant of the Rephaim, who lived in Ashtaroth and Edrei. He ruled over Mount Hermon, Salakah, all of Bashan up to the border of the Geshurites and Maacathites, and half of Gilead to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites had struck them down and given their land as an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. And these are the kings of the land that Joshua and the Israelites conquered beyond the Jordan to the west, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which rises toward Seir. According to the allotments to the tribes of Israel, Joshua gave them as an inheritance the hill country, the foothills, the Arabah, the slopes, the wilderness, and the Negev, the lands of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. The king of Jericho, 1. The king of Ai, which is near Bethel, 1. The king of Jerusalem, 1. The king of Hebron, 1. The king of Jarmuth, 1. The king of Lachish, 1. The king of Eglon, 1. The king of Gezer, 1. The king of Deber, 1. The king of Geder, 1. The king of Hormah, 1. The king of Arad, 1. The king of Libnah, 1. The king of Adullam, 1. The king of Makkedah, 1. The king of Bethel, 1. The king of Tappuah, 1. The king of Hepher, 1. The king of Aphek, 1. The king of Lasharon, 1. The king of Madon, 1. The king of Hazor, 1. The king of Shimron-Meron, 1. The king of Akshaph, 1. The king of Taanach, 1. The king of Megiddo, 1. The king of Kedesh, 1. The king of Jokneam in Carmel, 1. The king of Dor in Naphath Dor, 1. The king of Goyim in Gilgal, 1. And the king of Tirzah, 1. So there were 31 kings in all. Joshua 13. Now Joshua was old and well along in years. And the Lord said to him, You are old and well along in years, but very much of the land remains to be possessed. This is the land that remains, all the territory of the Philistines and the Geshurites, from the Shihor east of Egypt to the territory of Ekron on the north, considered to be Canaanite territory. That of the 5 Philistine rulers of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron, as well as that of the Avites. To the south, all the land of the Canaanites, from Mearah of the Sidonians to Aphek, as far as the border of the Amorites. The land of the Gebalites, and all Lebanon to the east, from Baal-Gad below Mount Hermon to Lebo-Hamath. All the inhabitants of the hill country, from Lebanon to Misrephoth-Maim, all the Sidonians, I myself will drive out before the Israelites. Be sure to divide it by lot as an inheritance to Israel, as I have commanded you. Now therefore divide this land as an inheritance to the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh. The other half of Manasseh, along with the Reubenites and Gadites, had received the inheritance Moses had given them beyond the Jordan to the east, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had assigned to them. The area from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Valley, along with the city in the middle of the valley, the whole plateau of Medeba as far as Dibon, and all the cities of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, as far as the border of the Ammonites. Also Gilead and the territory of the Geshurites and Maacathites, all of Mount Hermon, and all Bashan as far as Salakah, the whole kingdom of Og in Bashan, who had reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei, and had remained as a remnant of the Rephaim. Moses had struck them down and dispossessed them, but the Israelites did not drive out the Geshurites or the Maacathites. So Gesher and Maacath dwell among the Israelites to this day. To the tribe of Levi, however, Moses had given no inheritance. The offerings made by fire to the Lord, the God of Israel, are their inheritance, just as he had promised them. This is what Moses had given to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. The territory from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Valley, along with the city in the middle of the valley, to the whole plateau beyond Medeba, to Heshbon and all its cities on the plateau, including Dibon, Bamoth-baal, Beth-baal-meon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Mephaath, Kiriathaim, Sibmah, Zerath-shahar on the hill in the valley, Beth-peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth-jeshimoth, all the cities of the plateau, and all the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon until Moses killed him and the chiefs of Midian, Evi, Rekem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the princes of Sihon who lived in the land. The Israelites also killed the diviner Balaam son of Beor, along with the others they put to the sword. And the border of the Reubenites was the bank of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the clans of the Reubenites, including the cities and villages. This is what Moses had given to the clans of the tribe of Gad: the territory of Jazer, all the cities of Gilead, and half the land of the Ammonites as far as Aroer near Rabbah, the territory from Heshbon to Ramoth Mizpah and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the border of Debir, and in the valley Beth-haram, Beth-nimrah, Succoth, and Zaphon, with the rest of the kingdom of Sihon king of Heshbon, the territory on the east side of the Jordan up to the edge of the Sea of Kinnereth. This was the inheritance of the clans of the Gadites, including the cities and villages. This is what Moses had given to the clans of the half-tribe of Manasseh, that is, to half the tribe of the descendants of Manasseh. The territory from Mahanaim through all Bashan, all the kingdom of Og king of Bashan, including all the towns of Jair that are in Bashan, 60 cities, half of Gilead, and Ashtaroth and Edrei, the royal cities of Og in Bashan. All this was for the clans of the descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, that is, half of the descendants of Machir. These were the portions Moses had given them on the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan, east of Jericho. To the tribe of Levi, however, Moses had given no inheritance. The Lord, the God of Israel, is their inheritance, just as he had promised them. Joshua 14. Now these are the portions that the Israelites inherited in the land of Canaan, as distributed by Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the families of the tribes of Israel. Their inheritance was assigned by lot for the 9½ tribes, as the Lord had commanded through Moses. For Moses had given the inheritance east of the Jordan to the other 2½ tribes, but he granted no inheritance among them to the Levites. The descendants of Joseph became 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and no portion of the land was given to the Levites, except for cities in which to live, along with pasture lands for their flocks and herds. So the Israelites did as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they divided the land. Then the sons of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back to him an honest report. Although my brothers who went with me made the hearts of the people melt with fear, I remained loyal to the Lord my God. On that day Moses swore to me, saying, 'Surely the land on which you have set foot will be an inheritance to you and your children forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God.' Now behold, as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive these 45 years since he spoke this word to Moses, while Israel wandered in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old, still as strong today as I was the day Moses sent me out. As my strength was then, so it is now for war, for going out and for coming in. Now therefore, give me this hill country that the Lord promised me on that day. For you yourself heard then that the Anakim were there, with great and fortified cities. Perhaps with the Lord's help I will drive them out, as the Lord has spoken." Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him as his inheritance. Therefore Hebron belongs to Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, as an inheritance to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord, the God of Israel. Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, after Arba, the greatest man among the Anakim. Then the land had rest from war. Joshua 15. Now the allotment for the clans of the tribe of Judah extended to the border of Edom, to the wilderness of Zin, at the extreme southern boundary. Their southern border started at the bay on the southern tip of the Salt Sea, proceeded south of the ascent of Akrabim, continued on to Zin, went over to the south of Kadesh Barnea, ran past Hezron up to Adar, and curved toward Karka. It proceeded to Asmon, joined the brook of Egypt, and ended at the sea. This was their southern border. The eastern border was the Salt Sea, as far as the mouth of the Jordan. The northern border started from the bay of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan, went up to Beth Hogla, proceeded north of Beth Araba, and went up to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben. Then the border went up to Debir from the valley of Achor, turning north to Gilgal, which faces the ascent of Adumim south of the ravine. It continued along the waters of En-Shemesh and came out at En-Rogel. From there, the border went up the valley of Hinnom along the southern slope of the Jebusites, that is, Jerusalem, and ascended to the top of the hill that faces the valley of Hinnom on the west, at the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. From the hilltop, the border curved to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah, proceeded to the cities of Mount Ephron, and then bent around toward Baalah, that is, Kiriath Jearim. The border curled westward from Baalah to Mount Seir, ran along the northern slope of Mount Jearim, that is, Kesalon, went down to Beth Shemesh, and crossed to Timnah. Then it went out to the northern slope of Ekron, curved toward Shikkeron, proceeded to Mount Baalah, went on to Jabneel, and ended at the sea. And the western border was the coastline of the Great Sea. These are the boundaries around the clans of the descendants of Judah. According to the Lord's command to him, Joshua gave Caleb, son of Jephunneh, a portion among the sons of Judah, Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron. Arba was the forefather of Anak. And Caleb drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak, the descendants of Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. From there he marched against the inhabitants of Debir, formerly known as Kiriath Sepher. And Caleb said, "To the man who strikes down Kiriath Sepher and captures it, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage." So Othniel, son of Caleb's brother Kenaz, captured the city, and Caleb gave his daughter Aksah to him in marriage. One day Aksah came to Othniel and urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What do you desire?" "Give me a blessing," she answered. "Since you have given me land in the Negev, give me springs of water as well." So Caleb gave her both the upper and lower springs. This is the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Judah. These were the southernmost cities of the tribe of Judah in the Negev toward the border of Edom: Kabzeel, Eder, Jagur, Kinah, Dimonah, Adadah, Kedesh, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bealoth, Hazor Hadattah, Kiriath Hezron, that is, Hazor, Amam, Shema, Moladah, Hazar Gaddah, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba, Biziothila, Baalah, Ayim, Ezem, Etolad, Kisil, Hormah, Ziklag, Madmanah, Sansannah, Lebaoth, Shilhim, Ain, and Rimmon, 29 cities in all, along with their villages. These were in the foothills: Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zanoah, Enganim, Tepuah, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Soko, Azekah, Shearaim, Adathaim, and Gederah, or Gederathaim, 14 cities along with their villages. Zenan, Hadashah, Migdal-Gad, Dilan, Mizpah, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Cabin, Lamas, Kitlish, Gederoth, Beth-Dagon, Naaman, and Makkedah, 16 cities along with their villages. Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iftah, Ashna, Nezib, Keilah, Aksib, and Maresha, 9 cities along with their villages. Ekron with its towns and villages, from Ekron to the sea, all the cities near Ashdod, along with their villages. Ashdod with its towns and villages, Gaza with its towns and villages, as far as the brook of Egypt and the coastline of the Great Sea. These were in the hill country: Shamir, Jatir, Soko, Dana, Kiriath-Sana, that is, Deber, Anab, Eshtemoh, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo, 11 cities along with their villages. Arab, Duma, Eshan, Janim, Beth-Tappuah, Aphekah, Humta, Kiriath-Arba, that is, Hebron, and Zior, 9 cities along with their villages. Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Juttah, Jezreel, Jokdeam, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 cities along with their villages. Halehol, Beth-zur, Geder, Maarath, Beth-Anoth, and Eltekon, 6 cities along with their villages. Kiriath-Baal, that is, Kiriath-Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 cities along with their villages. These were in the wilderness: Beth-Arabah, Middin, Sekekah, Nibshan, the city of salt, and En-Gedi, 6 cities along with their villages. But the descendants of Judah could not drive out the Jebusites living in Jerusalem. So to this day the Jebusites live there among the descendants of Judah. Joshua 16. The allotment for the descendants of Joseph extended from the Jordan at Jericho to the waters of Jericho on the east, through the wilderness that goes up from Jericho into the hill country of Bethel. It went on from Bethel, that is, Luz, and proceeded to the border of the Archites in Ataroth. Then it descended westward to the border of the Japhletites, as far as the border of Lower Beth-horon, and on to Gezer, and it ended at the sea. So Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, received their inheritance. This was the territory of the descendants of Ephraim by their clans. The border of their inheritance went from Ataroth-Adar in the east to Upper Beth-horon, and out toward the sea. From Mikmethath on the north, it turned eastward toward Taanath-Shiloh, and passed by it to Janoah on the east. From Janoah it went down to Ataroth and Naarah, and then reached Jericho, and came out at the Jordan. From Tappuah the border went westward to the brook of Cana, and ended at the sea. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Ephraim, along with all the cities and villages set apart for the descendants of Ephraim within the inheritance of Manasseh. But they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gezer. So the Canaanites dwell among the Ephraimites to this day, but they are forced laborers. Joshua 17. Now this was the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh as Joseph's firstborn son, namely for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, and father of the Gileadites, who had received Gilead and Bashan, because Machir was a man of war. So this allotment was for the rest of the descendants of Manasseh, the clans of Abiezer, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Hepher, and Shemida. These are the other male descendants of the clans of Manasseh, son of Joseph. But Zelophehad, son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters. These are the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They approached Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders, and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brothers." So Joshua gave them an inheritance among their father's brothers, in keeping with the command of the Lord. Thus 10 shares fell to Manasseh, in addition to the land of Gilead and Bashan beyond the Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance among his sons, and the land of Gilead belonged to the rest of the sons of Manasseh. Now the border of Manasseh went from Asher to Mikmethath near Shechem, then southward to include the inhabitants of En-Tappuah. The region of Tappuah belonged to Manasseh, but Tappuah itself, on the border of Manasseh, belonged to Ephraim. From there the border continued southward to the brook of Cana. There were cities belonging to Ephraim among the cities of Manasseh, but the border of Manasseh was on the north side of the brook and ended at the sea. Ephraim's territory was to the south, and Manasseh's was to the north, having the sea as its border, and adjoining Asher on the north, and Issachar on the east. Within Issachar and Asher, Manasseh was assigned Beth-shean, Ibleam, Dor, that is Naphat, Endor, Taanach, and Megiddo, each with their surrounding settlements. But the descendants of Manasseh were unable to occupy these cities, because the Canaanites were determined to stay in this land. However, when the Israelites grew stronger, they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but they failed to drive them out completely. Then the sons of Joseph said to Joshua, "Why have you given us only one portion as an inheritance? We have many people, because the Lord has blessed us abundantly." Joshua answered them, "If you have so many people that the hill country of Ephraim is too small for you, go to the forest and clear for yourself an area in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaim." "The hill country is not enough for us," they replied, "and all the Canaanites who live in the valley have iron chariots, both in Beth-shean with its towns and in the valley of Jezreel." So Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, "You have many people and great strength. You shall not have just one allotment, because the hill country will be yours as well. It is a forest. Clear it, and its farthest limits will be yours. Although the Canaanites have iron chariots, and although they are strong, you can drive them out." Joshua 18. Then the whole congregation of Israel assembled at Shiloh, and set up the tent of meeting. And though the land was subdued before them, there were still 7 tribes of Israel who had not yet received their inheritance. So Joshua said to the Israelites, "How long will you put off entering and possessing the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you? Appoint 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out to survey the land and map it out, according to the inheritance of each. Then they will return to me and divide the land into 7 portions. Judah shall remain in their territory in the south, and the house of Joseph shall remain in their territory in the north. When you have mapped out the 7 portions of land and brought it to me, I will cast lots for you here in the presence of the Lord our God. The Levites, however, have no portion among you, because their inheritance is the priesthood of the Lord. And Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh have already received the inheritance that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them beyond the Jordan to the east." As the men got up to go out, Joshua commanded them to map out the land, saying, "Go and survey the land, map it out, and return to me. Then I will cast lots for you here in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord." So the men departed and went throughout the land, mapping it city by city into 7 portions. Then they returned with the document to Joshua at the camp in Shiloh. And Joshua cast lots for them in the presence of the Lord at Shiloh, where he distributed the land to the Israelites according to their divisions. The first lot came up for the clans of the tribe of Benjamin. Their allotted territory lay between the tribes of Judah and Joseph. On the north side, their border began at the Jordan, went up past the northern slope of Jericho, headed west through the hill country, and came out at the wilderness of Beth-aven. From there, the border crossed over to the southern slope of Luz, that is, Bethel, and went down to Ataroth-Adar on the hill south of Lower Beth-horon. On the west side, The border curved southward from the hill facing Beth Horon on the south, and came out at Kiriath Baal, that is, Kiriath Jearim, a city of the sons of Judah. This was the western side. On the south side, the border began at the outskirts of Kiriath Jearim and extended westward to the spring at the waters of Nephtoah. Then it went down to the foot of the hill that faces the valley of Hinnom at the northern end of the valley of Rephaim, and ran down the valley of Hinnom toward the southern slope of the Jebusites and downward to Enrogel. From there it curved northward and proceeded to En-Shemesh and on to Galiloth, facing the ascent of Adummim, and continued down to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben. Then it went on to the northern slope of Beth Arabah and went down into the valley. The border continued to the northern slope of Beth Hoglah and came out at the northern bay of the Salt Sea, at the mouth of the Jordan. This was the southern border. On the east side, the border was the Jordan. These were the borders around the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Benjamin. These were the cities of the clans of the tribe of Benjamin: Jericho, Beth Hoglah, Emek Keziz, Beth Arabah, Zemaraim, Bethel, Avim, Para, Ophrah, Kepher Ammonai, Ophni, and Geba, 12 cities along with their villages. Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpah, Kephirah, Moza, Rekem, Irpeel, Tarala, Zelah, Haelath, Jebus, that is, Jerusalem, Gibeah, and Kiriath Jearim, 14 cities along with their villages. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Benjamin. Joshua 19. The second lot came out for the clans of the tribe of Simeon. Inheritance lay within the territory of Judah and included Beersheba, or Sheba, Moladah, Hazar Shual, Bela, Ezem, El-Tolad, Bethel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar Susa, Beth Lebaoth, and Sheruhen, 13 cities along with their villages. Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashen, 4 cities along with their villages, and all the villages surrounding these cities as far as Balath Beer, Ramah of the Negev. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Simeon. The inheritance of the Simeonites was taken from the territory of Judah, because the share for Judah's descendants was too large for them. So the Simeonites received an inheritance within Judah's portion. The third lot came up for the clans of the tribe of Zebulun. The border of their inheritance stretched as far as Sarid. It went up westward to Maralah, reached Dabbesheth, and met the brook east of Jokneam. From Sarid it turned eastward along the border of Kisloth Tabor, and went on to Daberath and up to Japhiah. From there it crossed eastward to Gath Hepher and to Athkazin. It extended to Rimmon and curved around toward Neah. Then the border circled around the north side of Neah to Hanathon and ended at the valley of Ifta-El. It also included Katath, Nahalal, Shimron, Ibalah, and Bethlehem. There were 12 cities along with their villages. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Zebulun, including these cities and their villages. The fourth lot came out for the clans of the tribe of Issachar. Their territory included Jezreel, Kesaloth, Shunem, Hapharaim, Shihon, Anaharoth, Rabbith, Kishion, Ebez, Remeth, Enganim, Enhaddah, and Beth Paziz. The border reached Tabor, Shehazuma, and Beth Shemesh, and ended at the Jordan. There were 16 cities along with their villages. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Issachar, including these cities and their villages. The fifth lot came out for the clans of the tribe of Asher. Their territory included Helkath, Halai, Beaton, Akshaph, Elimelech, Amad, and Mishal. On the west, the border touched Carmel and Shihor-Libnath, then turned eastward toward Beth Dagon, touched Zebulun and the valley of Ifta-El, to Beth-Emek and Naal, passing Cable on the left. It went on to Ebron, Rehob, Hammon, and Cana, as far as Greater Sidon. The border then turned back toward Ramah, as far as the fortified city of Tyre, turned toward Hosa, and came out at the sea, in the region of Aksib, Ummah, Aphek, and Rehob. There were 22 cities, along with their villages. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Asher, including these cities and their villages. The sixth lot came out for the clans of the tribe of Naphtali. Their border started at Heleph and the great tree of Zaananim, passing Adamai Nekeb and Jabneel as far as Lakum and ending at the Jordan. Then the border turned westward to Asnoth Tabor and ran from there to Hukkok, touching Zebulun on the south side, Asher on the west, and Judah at the Jordan on the east. The fortified cities were Ziddim, Zur, Hamath, Rakkath, Kinnereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hazor, Kedesh, Edrei, and Hazor, Iron, Migdal El, Horem, Beth-Anath, and Beth-Shemesh. There were 19 cities, along with their villages. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Naphtali, including these cities and their villages. The seventh lot came out for the clans of the tribe of Dan. The territory of their inheritance included Zorah, Eshtaol, Shemesh, Shealabin, Ithla, Elon, Timnah, Ekron, Eltekah, Gibbethon, Baalath, Jehud, Beni-Berak, Gath-Rimmon, Mejarkon, and Rakkon, including the territory across from Joppa. Later, when the territory of the Danites was lost to them, they went up and fought against Leshem, captured it, and put it to the sword. So they took possession of Leshem, settled there, and renamed it after their father Dan. This was the inheritance of the clans of the tribe of Dan, including these cities and their villages. When they had finished distributing the land into its territories, the Israelites gave Joshua, son of Nun, an inheritance among them, as the Lord had commanded. They gave him the city of Timnath-Serah, in the hill country of Ephraim, as he requested. He rebuilt the city and settled in it. These are the inheritances that Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the families distributed by lot to the tribes of Israel at Shiloh before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing up the land. Joshua 20. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Tell the Israelites to designate the cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses, so that anyone who kills another unintentionally or accidentally may flee there. These will be your refuge from the avenger of blood. When someone flees to one of these cities, stands at the entrance of the city gate, and states his case before its elders, they are to bring him into the city and give him a place to live among them. Now if the avenger of blood pursues him, they must not surrender the manslayer into his hand, because that man killed his neighbor accidentally without prior malice. He is to stay in that city until he stands trial before the assembly, and until the death of the high priest serving at that time. Then the manslayer may return to his own home in the city from which he fled." So they set apart Kedesh in Galilee in the hill country of Naphtali, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah. And beyond the Jordan, east of Jericho, they designated Bezer on the wilderness plateau from the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead from the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan from the tribe of Manasseh. These are the cities appointed for all the Israelites and foreigners among them, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there, and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood prior to standing trial before the assembly. Joshua 21. Now the family heads of the Levites approached Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the other tribes of Israel at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, and said to them, The Lord commanded through Moses that we be given cities in which to live, together with pasture lands for our livestock. So by the command of the Lord, the Israelites gave the Levites these cities and their pasture lands out of their own inheritance. The first lot came out for the Kohathite clans. The Levites, who were descendants of Aaron the priest, received 13 cities by lot from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The remaining descendants of Kohath received 10 cities by lot from the tribes of Ephraim, Dan, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. The descendants of Gershon received 13 cities by lot from the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in Bashan. And the descendants of Merari received 12 cities from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. So the Israelites allotted to the Levites these cities together with their pasture lands, as the Lord had commanded through Moses. From the tribes of Judah and Simeon, they designated these cities by name to the descendants of Aaron from the Kohathite clans of the Levites, because the first lot fell to them. They gave them Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, with its surrounding pasture lands in the hill country of Judah. Arba was the father of Anak. But they had given the fields and villages around the city to Caleb son of Jephunneh as his possession. So to the descendants of Aaron the priest they gave these cities together with their pasture lands: Hebron, a city of refuge for the manslayer; Libnah, Jattir, Eshtemoa, Holon, Deber, Ain, Juttah, and Beth-Shemesh, 9 cities from these 2 tribes, together with their pasture lands. And from the tribe of Benjamin they gave them Gibeon, Geba, Anathoth, and Almon, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. In all, 13 cities, together with their pasture lands, were given to the priests, the descendants of Aaron. The remaining Kohathite clans of the Levites were allotted these cities. From the tribe of Ephraim, they were given Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, a city of refuge for the manslayer; Gezer, Kibzaim, and Beth-horon, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. From the tribe of Dan, they were given Eltekeh, Gibbethon, Aijalon, and Gathrimmon, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. And from the half-tribe of Manasseh, they were given Taanach and Gathrimmon, 2 cities together with their pasture lands. In all, 10 cities together with their pasture lands were given to the rest of the Kohathite clans. This is what the Levite clans of the Gershonites were given. From the half-tribe of Manasseh, they were given Golan in Bashan, a city of refuge for the manslayer, and Beeshterah, 2 cities together with their pasture lands. From the tribe of Issachar, they were given Kishion, Daberath, Jarmuth, and Engammon, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. From the tribe of Asher, they were given Mishal, Abdon, Helkath, and Rehob, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. And from the tribe of Naphtali, they were given Kedesh in Galilee, a city of refuge for the manslayer, Hamath-dor, and Kartan, 3 cities together with their pasture lands. In all, 13 cities together with their pasture lands were given to the Gershonite clans. This is what the Merarite clan, the rest of the Levites, were given. From the tribe of Zebulun, they were given Jokneam, Karta, Dimnah, and Nahalal, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. From the tribe of Reuben, they were given Bezer, Jahaz, Kedemoth, and Mephaath, 4 cities together with their pasture lands. And from the tribe of Gad, they were given Ramoth in Gilead, a city of refuge for the manslayer, Mahanaim, Heshbon, and Jazer, 4 cities in all, together with their pasture lands. In all, 12 cities were allotted to the clans of Merari, the remaining Levite clans. For the Levites then, there were 48 cities in all, together with their pasture lands, within the territory of the Israelites. Each of these cities had its own surrounding pasture lands. This was true for all the cities. Thus the Lord gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give their fathers, and they took possession of it and settled in it. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their fathers. None of their enemies could stand against them, for the Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to the house of Israel had failed. Everything was fulfilled. Joshua 22. Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and told them, "You have done all that Moses the servant of the Lord commanded you, and you have obeyed my voice in all that I commanded you. All this time you have not deserted your brothers up to this very day, but have kept the charge given you by the Lord your God. And now that the Lord your God has given your brothers rest as he promised them, you may return to your homes in the land that Moses the servant of the Lord gave you across the Jordan. But be very careful to observe the commandment and the law that Moses the servant of the Lord gave you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul." So Joshua blessed them and sent them on their way, and they went to their homes. To the half-tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given land in Bashan, and to the other half, Joshua gave land on the west side of the Jordan among their brothers. When Joshua sent them to their homes, he blessed them, saying, "Return to your homes with your great wealth, with immense herds of livestock, with silver, gold, bronze, iron, and very many clothes. Divide with your brothers the spoil of your enemies." So the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh left the Israelites at Shiloh in the land of Canaan to return to their own land of Gilead, which they had acquired according to the command of the Lord through Moses. And when they came to Goliloth near the Jordan in the land of Canaan, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh built an imposing altar there by the Jordan. Then the Israelites received the report, "Behold, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have built an altar on the border of the land of Canaan, at Goliloth near the Jordan on the Israelite side." And when they heard this, the whole congregation of Israel assembled at Shiloh to go to war against them. The Israelites sent Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, to the land of Gilead, to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. With him they sent 10 chiefs, one family leader from each tribe of Israel, each the head of a family among the clans of Israel. They went to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in the land of Gilead, and said to them, "This is what the whole congregation of the Lord says. What is this breach of faith you have committed today against the God of Israel, by turning away from the Lord and building for yourselves an altar, that you might rebel against the Lord this day? Was not the sin of Peor enough for us, from which we have not cleansed ourselves to this day? It even brought a plague upon the congregation of the Lord. And now would you turn away from the Lord? If you rebel today against the Lord, tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. If indeed the land of your inheritance is unclean, then cross over to the land of the Lord's possession, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and take possession of it among us. But do not rebel against the Lord or against us by building for yourselves an altar other than the altar of the Lord our God. Was not Achan son of Zerah unfaithful regarding what was set apart for destruction, bringing wrath upon the whole congregation of Israel? Yet it was not only Achan who perished because of his sin." Then the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh answered the leaders of the clans of Israel, "The Lord, The Mighty One is God. The Lord, the Mighty One, is God. He knows, and may Israel also know. If this was in rebellion or breach of faith against the Lord, do not spare us today. If we have built for ourselves an altar to turn away from him, and to offer burnt offerings and grain offerings on it, or to sacrifice fellowship offerings on it, may the Lord himself hold us accountable. But in fact, we have done this for fear that in the future your descendants might say to ours, "What have you to do with the Lord, the God of Israel?" For the Lord has made the Jordan a border between us and you Reubenites and Gadites. You have no share in the Lord. So your descendants could cause ours to stop fearing the Lord. That is why we said, let us take action and build an altar for ourselves, but not for burnt offerings or sacrifices. Rather, let it be a witness between us and you and the generations to come, that we will worship the Lord in his presence with our burnt offerings, sacrifices, and peace offerings. Then, in the future, your descendants cannot say to ours, "You have no share in the Lord." Therefore we said, if they ever say this to us or to our descendants, we will answer, "Look at the replica of the altar of the Lord that our fathers made, not for burnt offerings or sacrifices, but as a witness between us and you." Far be it from us to rebel against the Lord and turn away from him today by building an altar for burnt offerings, grain offerings, or sacrifices, other than the altar of the Lord our God, which stands before his tabernacle. When Phinehas the priest and the chiefs of the congregation, the heads of Israel's clans who were with him, heard what the descendants of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh had to say, they were satisfied. Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, said to the descendants of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, "Today we know that the Lord is among us, because you have not committed this breach of faith against him. Consequently, you have delivered the Israelites from the hand of the Lord." Then Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, together with the other leaders, returned to the Israelites in the land of Canaan, and brought back a report regarding the Reubenites and Gadites in the land of Gilead. The Israelites were satisfied with the report, and they blessed God and spoke no more about going to war against them to destroy the land where the Reubenites and Gadites lived. So the Reubenites and Gadites named the altar Witness, for they said, "It is a witness between us that the Lord is God." Joshua 23. A long time after the Lord had given Israel rest from all the enemies around them, when Joshua was old and well along in years, he summoned all Israel, including its elders, leaders, judges, and officers. "I am old and well along in years," he said, "and you have seen everything that the Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake, because it was the Lord your God who fought for you. See, I have allotted as an inheritance to your tribes these remaining nations, including all the nations I have already cut off, from the Jordan westward to the Great Sea. The Lord your God will push them out of your way and drive them out before you, so that you can take possession of their land, as the Lord your God promised you. Be very strong then, so that you can keep and obey all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, not turning aside from it to the right or to the left, so you are not to associate with these nations that remain among you. You must not call on the names of their gods or swear by them, and you must not serve them or bow down to them. Instead, you shall hold fast to the Lord your God, as you have done to this day. The Lord has driven out great and powerful nations before you, and to this day no one can stand against you. One of you can put 1,000 to flight, because the Lord your God fights for you, just as he promised. Therefore, watch yourselves carefully, that you love the Lord your God. For if you turn away and cling to the rest of these nations that remain among you, and if you intermarry and associate with them, know for sure that the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations before you. Instead, they will become for you a snare and a trap, a scourge in your sides and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land that the Lord your God has given you. Now behold, today I am going the way of all the earth, and you know with all your heart and soul that not one of the good promises the Lord your God made to you has failed. Everything was fulfilled for you. Not one promise has failed. But just as every good thing the Lord your God promised you has come to pass, likewise the Lord will bring upon you the calamity he has threatened, until he has destroyed you from this good land he has given you. If you transgress the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and go and serve other gods and bow down to them, then the anger of the Lord will burn against you, and you will quickly perish from this good land he has given you. Joshua 24. Then Joshua assembled all the tribes of Israel at Shechem. He summoned the elders, leaders, judges, and officers of Israel, and they presented themselves before God. And Joshua said to all the people, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago your fathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from beyond the Euphrates and led him through all the land of Canaan, and I multiplied his descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I gave Esau Mount Seir to possess, but Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron, and I afflicted the Egyptians by what I did there, and afterward I brought you out. When I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you reached the Red Sea, the Egyptians pursued them with chariots and horsemen as far as the Red Sea. So your fathers cried out to the Lord, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, over whom he brought the sea and engulfed them. Your very eyes saw what I did to the Egyptians. Then you lived in the wilderness for a long time. Later, I brought you to the land of the Amorites, who lived beyond the Jordan. They fought against you, but I delivered them into your hand, that you should possess their land when I destroyed them before you. Then Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, set out to fight against Israel. He sent for Balaam, son of Beor, to curse you, but I would not listen to Balaam. So he blessed you again and again, and I delivered you from his hand. After this, you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. The people of Jericho fought against you, as did the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I delivered them into your hand. I sent the hornet ahead of you, and it drove out the 2 Amorite kings before you, but not by your own sword or bow. So I gave you a land on which you did not toil, and cities that you did not build, and now you live in them, and eat from vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. Now therefore, fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and truth. Cast aside the gods your fathers served beyond the Euphrates and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if it is unpleasing in your sight to serve the Lord, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your fathers served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." The people replied, "Far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For the Lord our God brought us and our fathers out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, and performed these great signs before our eyes. He also protected us throughout our journey, and among all the nations through which we traveled. And the Lord drove out before us all the nations, including the Amorites who lived in the land. We too will serve the Lord, because He is our God. But Joshua said to the people, You are not able to serve the Lord, for He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your rebellion or your sins. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, He will turn and bring disaster on you and consume you, even after He has been good to you. No, replied the people, we will serve the Lord. Then Joshua told them, You are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen to serve the Lord. We are witnesses, they said. Now therefore, he said, Get rid of the foreign gods among you, and incline your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel. So the people said to Joshua, We will serve the Lord our God, and obey His voice. On that day Joshua made a covenant for the people, and there at Shechem he established for them a statute and ordinance. Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. Then he took a large stone and set it up there under the oak that was near the sanctuary of the Lord. And Joshua said to all the people, You see this stone. It will be a witness against us, for it has heard all the words the Lord has spoken to us, and it will be a witness against you if you ever deny your God. Then Joshua sent the people away, each to his own inheritance. Sometime later, Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And they buried him in the land of his inheritance, at Timnath-Serah, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. Israel had served the Lord throughout the days of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him, and who had experienced all the works that the Lord had done for Israel. And the bones of Joseph, which the Israelites had brought up out of Egypt, were buried at Shechem, in the plot of land that Jacob had purchased from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of silver. So it became an inheritance for Joseph's descendants. Eleazar, son of Aaron, also died, and they buried him at Gibeah, which had been given to his son Phinehas in the hill country of Ephraim. Judges 1. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites inquired of the Lord, Who will be the first to go up and fight for us against the Canaanites? Judah shall go up, answered the Lord. Indeed, I have delivered the land into their hands. Then the men of Judah said to their brothers the Simeonites, Come up with us to our allotted territory, and let us fight against the Canaanites. And we likewise will go with you to your territory. So the Simeonites went with them. When Judah attacked, the Lord delivered the Canaanites and Perizzites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. And there they found Adoni-Bezek and fought against him, striking down the Canaanites and Perizzites. As Adoni-Bezek fled, they pursued him, seized him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Then Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have gathered the scraps under my table. As I have done to them, so God has repaid me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, where he died. Then the men of Judah fought against Jerusalem and captured it. They put the city to the sword and set it on fire. Afterward, the men of Judah marched down to fight against the Canaanites living in the hill country, in the Negev, and in the foothills. Judah also marched against the Canaanites who were living in Hebron, formerly known as Kiriath Arba, and they struck down Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. From there, they marched against the inhabitants of Debir, formerly known as Kiriath Sepher. And Caleb said, To the man who strikes down Kiriath Sepher and captures it, I will give my daughter Achsah in marriage. So Othniel, son of Caleb's younger brother Kenaz, captured the city, and Caleb gave his daughter Achsah to him in marriage. One day Achsah came to Othniel and urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What do you desire?" "Give me a blessing," she answered. "Since you have given me land in the Negev, give me springs of water as well." So Caleb gave her both the upper and lower springs. Now the descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Kenite, went up with the men of Judah from the city of palms to the wilderness of Judah in the Negev near Arad. They went to live among the people. Then the men of Judah went with their brothers the Simeonites, attacked the Canaanites living in Zephath, and devoted the city to destruction. So it was called Hormah. And Judah also captured Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, each with its territory. The Lord was with Judah, and they took possession of the hill country. But they could not drive out the inhabitants of the plains, because they had chariots of iron. Just as Moses had promised, Judah gave Hebron to Caleb, who drove out the descendants of the 3 sons of Anak. The Benjamites, however, failed to drive out the Jebusites living in Jerusalem. So to this day, the Jebusites live there among the Benjamites. The house of Joseph also attacked Bethel, and the Lord was with them. They sent spies to Bethel, formerly known as Luz, and when the spies saw a man coming out of the city, they said to him, "Please show us how to get into the city, and we will treat you kindly." So the man showed them the entrance to the city, and they put the city to the sword, but released that man and all his family. And the man went to the land of the Hittites, built a city, and called it Luz, which is its name to this day. At that time Manasseh failed to drive out the inhabitants of Beth-shean, Taanach, Dor, Ibleam, Megiddo, and their villages, for the Canaanites were determined to dwell in that land. When Israel became stronger, they pressed the Canaanites into forced labor, but they never drove them out completely. Ephraim also failed to drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer, so the Canaanites continued to dwell among them in Gezer. Zebulun failed to drive out the inhabitants of Kitron and Nahalal, so the Canaanites lived among them and served as forced laborers. Asher failed to drive out the inhabitants of Akko, Sidon, Alab, Aksib, Helba, Aphik, and Rehob. So the Asherites lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, because they did not drive them out. Naphtali failed to drive out the inhabitants of Beth-shemesh and Beth-anath. So the Naphtalites also lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, but the inhabitants of Beth-shemesh and Beth-anath served them as forced laborers. The Amorites forced the Danites into the hill country and did not allow them to come down into the plain. And the Amorites were determined to dwell in Mount Heres, Aijalon, and Shaalbim. But when the house of Joseph grew in strength, they pressed the Amorites into forced labor. And the border of the Amorites extended from the ascent of Akrabim to Selah and beyond. Judges 2. Now the angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim, and said, I brought you up out of Egypt, and led you into the land that I had promised to your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you are not to make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall tear down their altars. Yet you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you have done? So now I tell you that I will not drive out these people before you. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a snare to you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these words to all the Israelites, the people lifted up their voices and wept. So they called that place Bochim, and offered sacrifices there to the Lord. After Joshua had dismissed the people, the Israelites went out to take possession of the land, each to his own inheritance. And the people served the Lord throughout the days of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him, who had seen all the great works that the Lord had done for Israel. And Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the land of his inheritance, at Timnath-Heres in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. After that whole generation had also been gathered to their fathers, another generation rose up, who did not know the Lord, or the works that he had done for Israel. And the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served the Baals. Thus they forsook the Lord, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they followed after various gods of the peoples around them. They bowed down to them and provoked the Lord to anger, for they forsook him and served Baal and the Ashtoreths. Then the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of those who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Wherever Israel marched out, the hand of the Lord was against them to bring calamity, just as he had sworn to them. So they were greatly distressed. Then the Lord raised up judges, who saved them from the hands of those who plundered them. Israel, however, did not listen to their judges. Instead, they prostituted themselves with other gods and bowed down to them. They quickly turned from the way of their fathers, who had walked in obedience to the Lord's commandments. They did not do as their fathers had done. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for the Israelites, he was with that judge and saved them from the hands of their enemies while the judge was still alive. For the Lord was moved to pity by their groaning under those who oppressed them and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the Israelites became even more corrupt than their fathers, going after other gods to serve them and bow down to them. They would not give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. So the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he said, "Because this nation has transgressed the covenant I laid down for their fathers, and has not heeded my voice, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. In this way I will test whether Israel will keep the way of the Lord by walking in it as their fathers did." That is why the Lord had left those nations in place, and had not driven them out immediately by delivering them into the hand of Joshua. Judges 3. These are the nations that the Lord left to test all the Israelites who had not known any of the wars in Canaan, if only to teach warfare to the subsequent generations of Israel, especially to those who had not known it formerly. The 5 rulers of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, and the Hivites who lived in the mountains of Lebanon from Mount Baal-Hermon to Lebo-Hamath. These nations were left to test the Israelites, to find out whether they would keep the commandments of the Lord, which he had given their fathers through Moses. Thus the Israelites continued to live among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And they took the daughters of these people in marriage, gave their own daughters to their sons, and served their gods. So the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God, and served the Baals and the Asherahs. Then the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Aram-Naharaim. And the Israelites served him 8 years. But when the Israelites cried out to the Lord, he raised up Othniel, son of Caleb's younger brother Kenaz, as a deliverer to save them. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he became Israel's judge, and went out to war. And the Lord delivered Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Aram, into the hand of Othniel, who prevailed against him. So the land had rest for 40 years, until Othniel son of Kenaz died. Once again the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. So he gave Eglon king of Moab power over Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. After enlisting the Ammonites and Amalekites to join forces with him, Eglon attacked and defeated Israel, taking possession of the city of palms. The Israelites served Eglon king of Moab 18 years, and again they cried out to the Lord, and he raised up Ehud son of Gera, a left-handed Benjamite, as their deliverer. So they sent him with tribute to Eglon king of Moab. Now Ehud had made for himself a double-edged sword a cubit long. He strapped it to his right thigh under his cloak, and brought the tribute to Eglon king of Moab, who was an obese man. After Ehud had finished presenting the tribute, he ushered out those who had carried it. But upon reaching the idols near Gilgal, he himself turned back and said, "I have a secret message for you, O king." "Silence," said the king, and all his attendants left him. Then Ehud approached him while he was sitting alone in the coolness of his upper room. "I have a word from God for you," Ehud said, and the king rose from his seat. And Ehud reached with his left hand, pulled the sword from his right thigh, and plunged it into Eglon's belly. Even the handle sank in after the blade, and Eglon's fat closed in over it, so that Ehud did not withdraw the sword from his belly, and Eglon's bowels emptied. Then Ehud went out through the porch, closing and locking the doors of the upper room behind him. After Ehud was gone, Eglon's servants came in and found the doors of the upper room locked. "He must be relieving himself in the cool room," they said. So they waited until they became worried and saw that he had still not opened the doors of the upper room. Then they took the key and opened the doors, and there was their lord lying dead on the floor. Ehud, however, had escaped while the servants waited. He passed by the idols and escaped to Seirah. On arriving in Seirah, he blew the ram's horn throughout the hill country of Ephraim. The Israelites came down with him from the hills, and he became their leader. "Follow me," he told them, "for the Lord has delivered your enemies the Moabites into your hand." So they followed him down and seized the fords of the Jordan leading to Moab, and did not allow anyone to cross over. At that time they struck down about 10,000 Moabites, all robust and valiant men. Not one of them escaped. So Moab was subdued under the hand of Israel that day, and the land had rest for 80 years. After Ehud came Shamgar son of Anath, and he too saved Israel, striking down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. Judges 4. After Ehud died, the Israelites again did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his forces was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord, because Jabin had 900 chariots of iron, and he had harshly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time. And she would sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, where the Israelites would go up to her for judgment. She summoned Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kedesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "Surely the Lord, the God of Israel, is commanding you, go and march to Mount Tabor, taking with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun. And I will draw out Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, his chariots and his troops, to the river Kishon, and I will deliver him into your hand." Barak said to her, "If you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. I will certainly go with you, Deborah replied, but the road you are taking will bring you no honor, because the Lord will be selling Sisera into the hand of a woman. So Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kedesh, where he summoned Zebulun and Naphtali. 10,000 men followed him, and Deborah also went with him. Now Heber the Kenite had moved away from the Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent by the great tree of Zaananim, which was near Kedesh. When Sisera was told that Barak son of Abinoam had gone up Mount Tabor, he summoned all 900 of his iron chariots and all the men with him, from Harosheth Hagoyim to the river Kishon. Then Deborah said to Barak, Arise, for this is the day that the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone before you? So Barak came down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. And in front of him the Lord routed with the sword Sisera, all his charioteers, and all his army. Sisera abandoned his chariot and fled on foot. Then Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and the whole army of Sisera fell by the sword. Not a single man was left. Meanwhile, Sisera had fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was peace between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to greet Sisera and said to him, Come in, my lord. Come in with me. Do not be afraid. So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. Sisera said to her, Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a container of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him again. Stand at the entrance to the tent, he said, and if anyone comes and asks you, Is there a man here? Say no. But as he lay sleeping from exhaustion, Heber's wife Jael took a tent peg, grabbed a hammer, and went silently to Sisera. She drove the peg through his temple and into the ground, and he died. When Barak arrived in pursuit of Sisera, Jael went out to greet him, and said to him, Come, and I will show you the man you are seeking. So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera dead, with a tent peg through his temple. On that day God subdued Jabin king of Canaan before the Israelites. And the hand of the Israelites grew stronger and stronger against Jabin king of Canaan, until they destroyed him. Judges 5. On that day Deborah and Barak son of Abinoam sang this song. When the princes take the lead in Israel, when the people volunteer, bless the Lord. Listen, O kings, give ear, O princes, I will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord, the God of Israel. O Lord, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the land of Edom, the earth trembled, the heavens poured out rain, and the clouds poured down water. The mountains quaked before the Lord, the one of Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were deserted, and the travelers took the byways. Life in the villages ceased. It ended in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. When they chose new gods, then war came to their gates. Not a shield or spear was found among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with the princes of Israel, with the volunteers among the people. Bless the Lord. You who ride white donkeys, who sit on saddle blankets, and you who travel the road, ponder the voices of the singers at the watering places. There they shall recount the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous deeds of his villagers in Israel. Then the people of the Lord went down to the gates. Awake, awake, O Deborah! Awake, awake, sing a song. Arise, O Barak, and take hold of your captives, O son of Abinoam. Then the survivors came down to the nobles. The people of the Lord came down to me against the mighty. Some came from Ephraim, with their roots in Amalek. Benjamin came with your people after you. The commanders came down from Maker, the bearers of the marshal's staff from Zebulun. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah, and Issachar was with Barak, rushing into the valley at his heels. In the clans of Reuben there was great indecision. Why did you sit among the sheepfolds to hear the whistling for the flocks? In the clans of Reuben there was great indecision. Gilead remained beyond the Jordan. Dan, why did you linger by the ships? Asher stayed at the coast and remained in his harbors. Zebulun was a people who risked their lives. Naphtali, too, on the heights of the battlefield. Kings came and fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought at Taanach, by the waters of Megiddo, but they took no plunder of silver. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away, the ancient river, the river Kishon. March on, O my soul, in strength. Then the hooves of horses thundered, the mad galloping of his stallions. Curse Meroz, says the angel of the Lord. Bitterly curse her inhabitants, for they did not come to help the Lord against the mighty. Most blessed among women is Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. He asked for water, and she gave him milk. In a magnificent bowl she brought him curds. She reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera and crushed his skull. She shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he collapsed, he fell. There he lay still. At her feet he collapsed, he fell. Where he collapsed, there he fell dead. Sisera's mother looked through the window. She peered through the lattice and lamented. Why is his chariot so long in coming? What has delayed the clatter of his chariots? Her wisest ladies answer. Indeed, she keeps telling herself, are they not finding and dividing the spoil? A girl or two for each warrior, a plunder of dyed garments for Sisera, the spoil of embroidered garments for the neck of the looter. So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but may those who love you shine like the sun at its brightest. And the land had rest for 40 years. Judges 6. Again the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. So he delivered them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. Because of the Midianites, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites would plant their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other people of the east would come up and invade them, encamping against them as far as Gaza, and destroying the produce of the land. They left Israel with no sustenance, neither sheep, nor oxen, nor donkeys. For the Midianites came with their livestock and their tents like a great swarm of locusts. They and their camels were innumerable, and they entered the land to ravage it. Israel was greatly impoverished by Midian, and the Israelites cried out to the Lord. Now when the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet, who told them, This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. I delivered you out of the hands of Egypt and all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am the Lord your God. You must not fear the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But you did not obey me. Then the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon and said, The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. Please, my Lord, Gideon replied, If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all his wonders, of which our fathers told us, saying, Has not the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us, and delivered us into the hand of Midian. The Lord turned to him and said, Go in the strength you have, and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Am I not sending you? Please, my Lord, Gideon replied, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the youngest in my father's house. Surely I will be with you, the Lord replied, and you will strike down all the Midianites as one man. Gideon answered, If I have found favor in your sight, give me a sign that it is you speaking with me. Please do not depart from this place until I return to you. Let me bring my offering and set it before you. And the Lord said, I will stay until you return. So Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread and an ephah of flour. He placed the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, and brought them out to present to him under the oak. And the angel of God said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened bread, lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And Gideon did so. Then the angel of the Lord extended the tip of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the meat and the unleavened bread. And fire flared from the rock, and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. Then the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he said, Oh no, Lord God, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord said to him, Peace be with you. Do not be afraid, for you will not die. So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there, and called it, The Lord is Peace. To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. On that very night the Lord said to Gideon, Take your father's young bull and a second bull 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper altar to the Lord your God on the top of this stronghold. And with the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down, take the second bull and offer it as a burnt offering. So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord had told him. But because he was too afraid of his father's household and the men of the city, he did it by night rather than in the daytime. When the men of the city got up in the morning, there was Baal's altar torn down, with the Asherah pole cut down beside it, and the second bull offered up on the newly built altar. Who did this? They said to one another. And after they had investigated thoroughly, they were told, Gideon, son of Joash, did it. Then the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out your son, he must die, because he has torn down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, Are you contending for Baal? Are you trying to save him? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal is a god, let him contend for himself with the one who has torn down his altar. So on that day Gideon was called Jerubbaal, that is to say, Let Baal contend with him, because he had torn down Baal's altar. Then all the Midianites, Amalekites, and other people of the east gathered together, crossed over the Jordan, and camped in the valley of Jezreel. So the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, who blew the ram's horn and rallied the Abiezrites behind him. Calling them to arms, Gideon sent messengers throughout Manasseh, as well as Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, so that they came up to meet him. Then Gideon said to God, If you are going to save Israel by my hand, as you have said, then behold, I will place a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, and all the ground is dry, then I will know that you are going to save Israel by my hand, as you have said. And that is what happened. When Gideon arose the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowlful of water. Then Gideon said to God, Do not be angry with me. let me speak one more time. Please allow me one more test with the fleece. This time, let it be dry, and the ground covered with dew. And that night, God did so. Only the fleece was dry, and dew covered the ground. Judges 7. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the men with him camped beside the spring of Harod. And the camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. Then the Lord said to Gideon, You have too many people for me to deliver Midian into their hands, lest Israel glorify themselves over me, saying, My own hand has saved me. Now therefore proclaim in the hearing of the people, Whoever is fearful and trembling may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 of them turned back, but 10,000 remained. Then the Lord said to Gideon, There are still too many people. Take them down to the water, and I will sift them for you there. If I say to you, This one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say, This one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to him, Separate those who lap the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel to drink. And the number of those who lapped the water with their hands to their mouths was 300 men. All the others knelt to drink. Then the Lord said to Gideon, With the 300 men who lapped the water, I will save you and deliver the Midianites into your hand. But all the others are to go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 men, who took charge of the provisions and ram's horns of the others. And the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. That night the Lord said to Gideon, Get up and go down against the camp, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you are afraid to do so, then go down to the camp with your servant Purah, and listen to what they are saying. Then your hands will be strengthened to attack the camp. So he went with Purah his servant to the outposts where armed men were guarding the camp. Now the Midianites, Amalekites, and all the other people of the east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts, and their camels were as countless as the sand on the seashore. And as Gideon arrived, a man was telling his friend about a dream. Behold, I had a dream, he said, and I saw a loaf of barley bread come tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent so hard that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend replied, This is nothing less than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash the Israelite. God has delivered Midian and the whole camp into his hand. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed in worship. He returned to the camp of Israel and said, Get up, for the Lord has delivered the camp of Midian into your hand. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and gave each man a ram's horn in one hand and a large jar in the other, containing a torch. Watch me and do as I do, Gideon said. When I come to the outskirts of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our horns, then you are also to blow your horns from all around the camp, and shout, For the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the outskirts of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after the changing of the guard. They blew their horns and broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew their horns and shattered their jars. Holding the torches in their left hands and the horns in their right hands, they shouted, A sword for the Lord and for Gideon. Each Israelite took his position around the camp, and the entire Midianite army fled, crying out as they ran. And when the 300 ram's horns sounded, the Lord set all the men in the camp against one another with their swords. The army fled to Bethshittah toward Zererah, as far as the border of Abel-Meholah near Tabbath. Then the men of Israel were called out from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim to say, "Come down against the Midianites, and seize the waters of the Jordan ahead of them as far as Beth-barah." So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they captured the waters of the Jordan as far as Beth-barah. They also captured Oreb and Zeeb, the two princes of Midian. And they killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeeb at the winepress of Zeeb. So they pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon on the other side of the Jordan. Judges 8. Then the men of Ephraim said to Gideon, "Why have you done this to us? Why did you fail to call us when you went to fight against Midian?" And they contended with him violently. But Gideon answered them, "Now what have I accomplished compared to you? Are not the gleanings of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? God has delivered Oreb and Zeeb, the two princes of Midian, into your hand. What was I able to do compared to you?" When he had said this, their anger against him subsided. Then Gideon and his 300 men came to the Jordan and crossed it, exhausted yet still in pursuit. So Gideon said to the men of Succoth, "Please give my troops some bread, for they are exhausted, and I am still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the leaders of Succoth asked, "Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your possession, that we should give bread to your army?" "Very well," Gideon replied. "When the Lord has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will tear your flesh with the thorns and briars of the wilderness." From there he went up to Penuel and asked the same from them. But the men of Penuel gave the same response as the men of Succoth. So Gideon told the men of Penuel, "When I return in triumph, I will tear down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with their army of about 15,000 men, all that were left of the armies of the people of the east. 120,000 swordsmen had already fallen. And Gideon went up by the caravan route east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and he attacked their army, taking them by surprise. When Zebah and Zalmunna fled, Gideon pursued and captured these two kings of Midian, routing their entire army. After this, Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle along the ascent of Heres. There he captured a young man of Succoth and interrogated him. The young man wrote down for him the names of the 77 leaders and elders of Succoth. And Gideon went to the men of Succoth and said, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me, saying, 'Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your possession, that we should give bread to your weary men?' Then he took the elders of the city, and using the thorns and briars of the wilderness, he disciplined the men of Succoth. He also pulled down the tower of Penuel, and killed the men of the city." Next, Gideon asked Zebah and Zalmunna, "What kind of men did you kill at Tabor?" "Men like you," they answered, "each one resembling the son of a king." "They were my brothers," Gideon replied, "the sons of my mother. As surely as the Lord lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you." So he said to Jether, his firstborn, "Get up and kill them." But the young man did not draw his sword. He was fearful, because he was still a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, "Get up and kill us yourself, for as the man is, so is his strength." So Gideon got up and killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and he took the crescent ornaments from the necks of their camels. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, Rule over us, you and your son and grandson, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian." But Gideon replied, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son. The Lord shall rule over you." Then he added, "Let me make a request of you, that each of you give me an earring from his plunder." For the enemies had gold earrings because they were Ishmaelites. "We will give them gladly," they replied. So they spread out a garment, and each man threw an earring from his plunder onto it. The weight of the gold earrings he had requested was 1,700 shekels, in addition to the crescent ornaments, the pendants, the purple garments of the kings of Midian, and the chains from the necks of their camels. From all this Gideon made an ephod, which he placed in Ophrah, his hometown. But soon all Israel prostituted themselves by worshipping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his household. In this way Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and did not raise its head again. So the land had rest for 40 years in the days of Gideon, and he, Jerubbaal, son of Joash, returned home and settled down. Gideon had 70 sons of his own, since he had many wives. His concubine, who dwelt in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. Later, Gideon, son of Joash, died at a ripe old age, and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And as soon as Gideon was dead, the Israelites turned and prostituted themselves with the Baals, and they set up Baal-berith as their god. The Israelites failed to remember the Lord their God, who had delivered them from the hands of all their enemies on every side. They did not show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, for all the good things he had done for Israel. Judges 9. Now Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers at Shechem, and said to them and to all the clan of his mother, "Please ask all the leaders of Shechem, is it better for you that 70 men, all the sons of Jerubbaal, rule over you, or just one man? Remember that I am your own flesh and blood." And when his mother's brothers spoke all these words about him in the presence of all the leaders of Shechem, their hearts were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, "He is our brother." So they gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired some worthless and reckless men to follow him. He went to his father's house in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, survived, because he hid himself. Then all the leaders of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the oak at the pillar in Shechem, and proceeded to make Abimelech their king. When this was reported to Jotham, he climbed to the top of Mount Gerizim, raised his voice, and cried out, "Listen to me, O leaders of Shechem, and may God listen to you." One day the trees set out to anoint a king for themselves. They said to the olive tree, "Reign over us." But the olive tree replied, "Should I stop giving my oil that honors both God and man to hold sway over the trees?" Then the trees said to the fig tree, "Come and reign over us." But the fig tree replied, "Should I stop giving my sweetness and my good fruit to hold sway over the trees?" Then the trees said to the grapevine, "Come and reign over us." But the grapevine replied, "Should I stop giving my wine that cheers both God and man to hold sway over the trees?" Finally, all the trees said to the thorn bush, "Come and reign over us." But the thorn bush replied, "If you really are anointing me as king over you, come and find refuge in my shade. But if not, may fire come out of the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon." Now if you have acted faithfully and honestly in making Abimelech king, if you have done well by Jerubbaal and his family, and if you have done to him as he deserves. For my father fought for you and risked his life to deliver you from the hand of Midian. But you have risen up against my father's house this day, and killed his 70 sons on a single stone. And you have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the leaders of Shechem, because he is your brother. If you have acted faithfully and honestly toward Jerubbaal and his house this day, then may you rejoice in Abimelech and he in you. But if not, may fire come from Abimelech and consume the leaders of Shechem and Beth Millo. And may fire come from the leaders of Shechem and Beth Millo and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham ran away, escaping to Beer, and he lived there for fear of his brother Abimelech. After Abimelech had reigned over Israel for 3 years, God sent a spirit of animosity between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem, and caused them to treat Abimelech deceitfully, in order that the crime against the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come to justice, and their blood be avenged on their brother Abimelech, and on the leaders of Shechem, who had helped him murder his brothers. The leaders of Shechem set up an ambush against Abimelech on the hilltops, and they robbed all who passed by them on the road. So this was reported to Abimelech. Meanwhile, Gaal, son of Ebed, came with his brothers and crossed into Shechem, and the leaders of Shechem put their confidence in him. And after they had gone out into the fields, gathered grapes from their vineyards, and trodden them, they held a festival and went into the house of their God. And as they ate and drank, they cursed Abimelech. Then Gaal, son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, and is not Zebul his officer? You are to serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. Why should we serve Abimelech? If only this people were under my authority, I would remove Abimelech. I would say to him, Muster your army and come out. When Zebul, the governor of the city, heard the words of Gaal, son of Ebed, he burned with anger. So he covertly sent messengers to Abimelech to say, Look, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his brothers have come to Shechem, and are stirring up the city against you. Now then, tonight you and the people with you are to come and lie in wait in the fields. And in the morning at sunrise, get up and advance against the city. When Gaal and his men come out against you, do to them whatever you are able. So Abimelech and all his troops set out by night, and lay in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, went out and stood at the entrance of the city gate, just as Abimelech and his men came out from their hiding places. When Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, Look, people are coming down from the mountains. But Zebul replied, The shadows of the mountains look like men to you. Then Gaal spoke up again, Look, people are coming down from the center of the land, and 1 company is coming by way of the diviner's oak. Where is your gloating now? Zebul replied. You said, Who is Abimelech that we should serve him? Are these not the people you ridiculed? Go out now and fight them. So Gaal went out before the leaders of Shechem and fought against Abimelech. But Abimelech pursued him, and Gaal fled before him. And many Shechemites fell wounded all the way to the entrance of the gate. Abimelech stayed in Arumah, and Zebul drove Gaal and his brothers out of Shechem. The next day the people of Shechem went out into the fields, and this was reported to Abimelech. So he took his men, divided them into 3 companies, and lay in wait in the fields. When he saw the people coming out of the city, he rose up against them and attacked them. Then Abimelech and the companies with him rushed forward and took their stand at the entrance of the city gate. The other 2 companies rushed against all who were in the fields and struck them down. And all that day Abimelech fought against the city until he had captured it and killed its people. Then he demolished the city and sowed it with salt. On hearing of this, all the leaders in the tower of Shechem entered the inner chamber of the temple of El-Berith. And when Abimelech was told that all the leaders in the tower of Shechem were gathered there, he and all his men went up to Mount Zalmon. Abimelech took his axe in his hand and cut a branch from the trees, which he lifted to his shoulder, saying to his men, "Hurry and do what you have seen me do." So each man also cut his own branch and followed Abimelech. Then they piled the branches against the inner chamber and set it on fire above them, killing everyone in the tower of Shechem, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, encamped against it, and captured it. But there was a strong tower inside the city, and all the men, women, and leaders of the city fled there. They locked themselves in and went up to the roof of the tower. When Abimelech came to attack the tower, he approached its entrance to set it on fire. But a woman dropped an upper millstone on Abimelech's head, crushing his skull. He quickly called his armor-bearer, saying, "Draw your sword and kill me, lest they say of me, 'A woman killed him.'" So Abimelech's armor-bearer ran his sword through him, and he died. And when the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they all went home. In this way, God repaid the wickedness that Abimelech had done to his father in murdering his 70 brothers. And God also brought all the wickedness of the men of Shechem back upon their own heads. So the curse of Jotham, son of Jerubbaal, came upon them. Judges 10. After the time of Abimelech, a man of Issachar, Tola, son of Puah, the son of Dodo, rose up to save Israel. He lived in Shamer in the hill country of Ephraim. Tola judged Israel 23 years, and when he died, he was buried in Shamer. Tola was followed by Jair the Gileadite, who judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 towns in the land of Gilead, which to this day are called Haveth Jair. When Jair died, he was buried in Kamon. And again the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. They served the Baals, the Ashtoreths, the gods of Aram, Sidon, and Moab, and the gods of the Ammonites and Philistines. Thus they forsook the Lord, and did not serve him. So the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines and Ammonites, who that very year harassed and oppressed the Israelites, and did so for 18 years to all the Israelites on the other side of the Jordan in Gilead, the land of the Amorites. The Ammonites also crossed the Jordan to fight against Judah, Benjamin, and the house of Ephraim, and Israel was in deep distress. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord, saying, "We have sinned against you, for we have indeed forsaken our God and served the Baals." The Lord replied, "When the Egyptians, Amorites, Ammonites, Philistines, Sidonians, Amalekites, and Maonites oppressed you, and you cried out to me, did I not save you from their hands? But you have forsaken me and served other gods, so I will no longer save you. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them save you in your time of trouble." "We have sinned," the Israelites said to the Lord. "Deal with us as you see fit, but please deliver us today." So they put away the foreign gods from among them and served the Lord, and he could no longer bear the misery of Israel. Then the Ammonites were called to arms and camped in Gilead, and the Israelites assembled and camped at Mizpah. And the rulers of Gilead said to one another, "Whoever will launch the attack against the Ammonites will be the head of all who live in Gilead." Judges 11. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor. He was the son of a prostitute, and Gilead was his father. And Gilead's wife bore him sons who grew up, drove Jephthah out, and said to him, You shall have no inheritance in our father's house, because you are the son of another woman. So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob, where worthless men gathered around him and traveled with him. Sometime later, when the Ammonites fought against Israel and made war with them, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. Come, they said, be our commander, so that we can fight against the Ammonites. Jephthah replied to the elders of Gilead, Did you not hate me and expel me from my father's house? Why then have you come to me now, when you are in distress? They answered Jephthah, This is why we now turn to you, that you may go with us, fight the Ammonites, and become leader over all of us who live in Gilead. But Jephthah asked them, If you take me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them to me, will I really be your leader? And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, The Lord is our witness, if we do not do as you say. So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him their leader and commander. And Jephthah repeated all his terms in the presence of the Lord at Mizpah. Then Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the Ammonites, saying, What do you have against me, that you have come to fight against my land? The king of the Ammonites answered Jephthah's messengers, When Israel came up out of Egypt, they seized my land, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and all the way to the Jordan. Now therefore restore it peaceably. Jephthah again sent messengers to the king of the Ammonites to tell him, This is what Jephthah says. Israel did not take away the land of Moab or of the Ammonites. But when Israel came up out of Egypt, they traveled through the wilderness to the Red Sea and came to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Please let us pass through your land. But the king of Edom would not listen. They also sent messengers to the king of Moab, but he would not consent. So Israel stayed in Kadesh. Then Israel traveled through the wilderness and bypassed the lands of Edom and Moab. They came to the east side of the land of Moab and camped on the other side of the Arnon. But they did not enter the territory of Moab, since the Arnon was its border. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon, and said to him, Please let us pass through your land into our own place. But Sihon would not trust Israel to pass through his territory. So he gathered all his people, encamped in Jahaz, and fought with Israel. Then the Lord, the God of Israel, delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, who defeated them. So Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites who inhabited that country, seizing all the land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness to the Jordan. Now since the Lord, the God of Israel, has driven out the Amorites from before his people Israel, should you now possess it? Do you not possess whatever your god Chemosh grants you? So also we possess whatever the Lord our God has granted us. Are you now so much better than Balak son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever contend with Israel or fight against them? For 300 years Israel has lived in Heshbon, Aroer, and their villages, as well as all the cities along the banks of the Arnon. Why did you not take them back during that time? I have not sinned against you, but you have done me wrong by waging war against me. May the Lord, the judge, decide today between the Israelites and the Ammonites. But the king of the Ammonites paid no heed to the message Jephthah sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, then through Mizpah of Gilead. And from there he advanced against the Ammonites. Jephthah made this vow to the Lord, If indeed you will deliver the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out the door of my house to greet me on my triumphant return from the Ammonites will belong to the Lord, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering." So Jephthah crossed over to the Ammonites to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hand. With a great blow he devastated 20 cities, from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel-Keramim. So the Ammonites were subdued before the Israelites. And when Jephthah returned home to Mizpah, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with tambourines and dancing. She was his only child. He had no son or daughter besides her. As soon as Jephthah saw her, he tore his clothes and said, "No, not my daughter. You have brought me to my knees. You have brought great misery upon me, for I have given my word to the Lord and cannot take it back." "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me as you have said, for the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites." She also said to her father, "Let me do this one thing. Let me wander for 2 months through the mountains with my friends and mourn my virginity." "Go," he said, and he sent her away for 2 months. So she left with her friends and mourned her virginity upon the mountains. After 2 months she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed, and she had never had relations with a man. So it has become a custom in Israel that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to lament the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. Judges 12. Then the men of Ephraim assembled and crossed the Jordan to Zaphon. They said to Jephthah, "Why have you crossed over to fight the Ammonites without calling us to go with you? We will burn your house down with you inside." But Jephthah replied, "My people and I had a serious conflict with the Ammonites, and when I called, you did not save me out of their hands. When I saw that you would not save me, I risked my life and crossed over to the Ammonites, and the Lord delivered them into my hand. Why then have you come today to fight against me?" Jephthah then gathered all the men of Gilead and fought against Ephraim. And the men of Gilead struck them down, because the Ephraimites had said, "You Gileadites are fugitives in Ephraim, living in the territories of Ephraim and Manasseh." The Gileadites captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim, and whenever a fugitive from Ephraim would say, "Let me cross over," the Gileadites would ask him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he answered no, they told him, "Please say Shibboleth." If he said Sibboleth, because he could not pronounce it correctly, they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. So at that time 42,000 Ephraimites were killed. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years, and when he died, he was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. After Jephthah, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons as well as 30 daughters, whom he gave in marriage to men outside his clan. And for his sons he brought back 30 wives from elsewhere. Ibzan judged Israel 7 years. Then Ibzan died, and he was buried in Bethlehem. After Ibzan, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel 10 years. Then Elon the Zebulunite died, and he was buried in Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. After Elon, Abdon son of Hillel from Pirathon judged Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 donkeys. And he judged Israel 8 years. Then Abdon son of Hillel from Pirathon died, and he was buried at Pirathon in Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. Judges 13. Again the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord, so he delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. Now there was a man from Zorah named Manoah, from the clan of the Danites, whose wife was barren and had no children. The angel of the Lord appeared to the woman, and said to her, "It is true that you are barren and have no children, but you will conceive and give birth to a son. Now please be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, and not to eat anything unclean. For behold, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come over his head, because the boy will be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he will begin the deliverance of Israel from the hand of the Philistines." So the woman went and told her husband, "A man of God came to me. His appearance was like the angel of God, exceedingly awesome. I did not ask him where he came from, and he did not tell me his name. But he said to me, 'Behold, you will conceive and give birth to a son. Now therefore do not drink wine or strong drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazarite to God from the womb until the day of his death.' Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, 'Please, O Lord, let the man of God you sent us come to us again to teach us how to raise the boy who is to be born.' And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God returned to the woman as she was sitting in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman ran quickly to tell her husband, 'Behold, the man who came to me the other day has reappeared.' So Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he asked, 'Are you the man who spoke to my wife?' 'I am,' he said. Then Manoah asked, 'When your words come to pass, what will be the boy's rule of life and mission?' So the angel of the Lord answered Manoah, 'Your wife is to do everything I told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor drink any wine or strong drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her.' 'Please stay here,' Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'and we will prepare a young goat for you.' And the angel of the Lord replied, 'Even if I stay, I will not eat your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord.' For Manoah did not know that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'What is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes to pass?' 'Why do you ask my name?' said the angel of the Lord, 'since it is beyond comprehension.' Then Manoah took a young goat and a grain offering, and offered them on a rock to the Lord. And as Manoah and his wife looked on, the Lord did a marvelous thing. When the flame went up from the altar to the sky, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell face down to the ground. And when the angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it had been the angel of the Lord. 'We are going to die,' he said to his wife, 'for we have seen God.' But his wife replied, 'If the Lord had intended to kill us, he would not have accepted the burnt offering and the grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all these things or spoken to us this way.' So the woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson. The boy grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him at Mahaneh-dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Judges 14. One day Samson went down to Timnah, where he saw a young Philistine woman. So he returned and told his father and mother, 'I have seen a daughter of the Philistines in Timnah. Now get her for me as a wife.' But his father and mother replied, 'Can't you find a young woman among your relatives or among any of our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife?' But Samson told his father, 'Get her for me, for she is pleasing to my eyes.' Now his father and mother did not know this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines were ruling over Israel. Then Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother, and came to the vineyards of Timnah. Suddenly a young lion came roaring at him, and the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. And he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as one would tear a young goat. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. Then Samson continued on his way down and spoke to the woman, because she was pleasing to his eyes. When Samson returned later to take her, he left the road to see the lion's carcass, and in it was a swarm of bees along with their honey. So he scooped some honey into his hands and ate it as he went along. And when he returned to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Then his father went to visit the woman, and Samson prepared a feast there, as was customary for the bridegroom. And when the Philistines saw him, they selected 30 men to accompany him. "Let me tell you a riddle," Samson said to them. "If you can solve it for me within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. But if you cannot solve it, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes." "Tell us your riddle," they replied. "Let us hear it." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." For 3 days they were unable to explain the riddle. So on the 4th day they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband to explain the riddle to us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to rob us?" Then Samson's wife came to him weeping and said, "You hate me. You do not really love me. You have posed to my people a riddle, but have not explained it to me." "Look," he said, "I have not even explained it to my father or mother, so why should I explain it to you?" She wept the whole 7 days of the feast, and finally on the 7th day, because she had pressed him so much, he told her the answer, and in turn she explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the city said to Samson, "What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion?" So he said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon, killed 30 of their men, took their apparel, and gave their clothes to those who had solved the riddle. And burning with anger, Samson returned to his father's house, and his wife was given to one of the men who had accompanied him. Judges 15. Later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. "I want to go to my wife in her room," he said, but her father would not let him enter. "I was sure that you thoroughly hated her," said her father, "so I gave her to one of the men who accompanied you. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead." Samson said to them, "This time I will be blameless in doing harm to the Philistines." Then Samson went out and caught 300 foxes, and he took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail, and fastened a torch between each pair of tails. Then he lit the torches and released the foxes into the standing grain of the Philistines, burning up the piles of grain and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. "Who did this?" the Philistines demanded. "It was Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite," they were told, for his wife was given to his companion. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. And Samson told them, "Because you have done this, I will not rest until I have taken vengeance upon you." And he struck them ruthlessly with a great slaughter, and then went down and stayed in the cave at the rock of Etam. Then the Philistines went up, camped in Judah, and deployed themselves near the town of Lehi. "Why have you attacked us?" said the men of Judah. The Philistines replied, "We have come to arrest Samson and pay him back for what he has done to us." In response, 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave at the rock of Etam, and they asked Samson, "Do you not realize that the Philistines rule over us? What have you done to us?" "I have done to them what they did to me," he replied. But they said to him, "We have come down to arrest you and hand you over to the Philistines." Samson replied, "Swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves." "No," they answered, "we will not kill you, but we will tie you up securely and hand you over to them." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. When Samson arrived in Lehi, the Philistines came out shouting against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. The ropes on his arms became like burnt flax, and the bonds broke loose from his hands. He found the fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached out his hand and took it, and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey I have piled them into heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey I have slain 1,000 men." And when Samson had finished speaking, he cast the jawbone from his hand, and he named that place Ramath-Lehi. And being very thirsty, Samson cried out to the Lord, "You have accomplished this great deliverance through your servant. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" So God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he was revived. That is why he named it En-Hakkore, and it remains in Lehi to this day. And Samson judged Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Judges 16. One day Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute and went in to spend the night with her. When the Gazites heard that Samson was there, they surrounded that place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They were quiet throughout the night, saying, "Let us wait until dawn, then we will kill him." But Samson lay there only until midnight, when he got up, took hold of the doors of the city gate and both gate posts, and pulled them out, bar and all. Then he put them on his shoulders and took them to the top of the mountain overlooking Hebron. Some time later, Samson fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines went to her and said, "Entice him, and find out the source of his great strength, and how we can overpower him to tie him up and subdue him. Then each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me the source of your great strength, and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson told her, "If they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I will become as weak as any other man." So the lords of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him up with them. While the men were hidden in her room, she called out, "Samson, the Philistines are here." But he snapped the bowstrings like a strand of yarn seared by a flame. So the source of his strength remained unknown. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have mocked me and lied to me. Now please tell me how you can be tied up." He replied, "If they tie me up with new ropes that have never been used, I will become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes, tied him up with them, and called out, "Samson, the Philistines are here." But while the men were hidden in her room, he snapped the ropes off his arms like they were threads. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have mocked me and lied to me all along. Tell me how you can be tied up." He told her, "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the web of a loom and tighten it with a pin, I will become as weak as any other man." So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 braids of his hair and wove them into the web. Then she tightened it with a pin and called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are here." But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the pin with the loom and the web. "How can you say, 'I love you,'" she asked, "when your heart is not with me? This is the 3rd time you have mocked me and failed to reveal to me the source of your great strength." Finally, after she had pressed him daily with her words and pleaded until he was sick to death, Samson told her all that was in his heart. "My hair has never been cut, because I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaved, my strength will leave me, and I will become as weak as any other man." When Delilah realized that he had revealed to her all that was in his heart, she sent this message to the lords of the Philistines: "Come up once more, for he has revealed to me all that is in his heart." Then the lords of the Philistines came to her, bringing the money in their hands. And having lulled him to sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his head. In this way she began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Then she called out, "Samson, the Philistines are here." When Samson awoke from his sleep, he thought, "I will escape as I did before, and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and brought him down to Gaza, where he was bound with bronze shackles and forced to grind grain in the prison. However, the hair of his head began to grow back after it had been shaved. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon. They rejoiced and said, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." And when the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered into our hands our enemy who destroyed our land and multiplied our dead." And while their hearts were merry, they said, "Call for Samson to entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison to entertain them, and they stationed him between the pillars. Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Lead me where I can feel the pillars supporting the temple, so I can lean against them." Now the temple was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and about 3,000 men and women were on the roof, watching Samson entertain them. Then Samson called out to the Lord, "O Lord God, please remember me. Strengthen me, O God, just once more, so that with one vengeful blow I may pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes." And Samson reached out for the 2 central pillars supporting the temple. Bracing himself against them with his right hand on one pillar and his left hand on the other, Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he pushed with all his might, and the temple fell on the lords and all the people in it. So in his death he killed more than he had killed in his life. Then Samson's brothers and his father's family came down, carried him back, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. And he had judged Israel 20 years. Judges 17. Now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, "The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have the silver here with me. I took it." Then his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." And when he had returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, "I wholly dedicate the silver to the Lord for my son's benefit, to make a graven image and a molten idol. Therefore I will now return it to you." So he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith, who made them into a graven image and a molten idol, and they were placed in the house of Micah. Now this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some household idols, and ordained one of his sons as his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And there was a young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah who had been residing within the clan of Judah. This man left the city of Bethlehem in Judah to settle where he could find a place. And as he traveled, he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. "Where are you from?" Micah asked him. "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah," he replied, "and I am on my way to settle wherever I can find a place." "Stay with me," Micah said to him, "and be my father and priest, and I will give you 10 shekels of silver per year, a suit of clothes, and your provisions." So the Levite went in and agreed to stay with him, and the young man became like a son to Micah. Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and lived in his house. Then Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will be good to me, because a Levite has become my priest." Judges 18. In those days there was no king in Israel, and the tribe of the Danites was looking for territory to occupy. For up to that time they had not come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. So the Danites sent out 5 men from their clans, men of valor from Zorah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land and explore it. "Go and explore the land," they told them. The men entered the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah, where they spent the night. And while they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they went over and asked him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here?" "Micah has done this and that for me," he replied, "and he has hired me to be his priest." Then they said to him, "Please inquire of God to determine whether we will have a successful journey." And the priest told them, "Go in peace. The Lord is watching over your journey." So the 5 men departed and came to Laish, where they saw that the people were living securely, like the Sidonians, tranquil and unsuspecting. There was nothing lacking in the land, and no oppressive ruler. And they were far away from the Sidonians and had no alliance with anyone. When the men returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers asked them, "What did you find?" They answered, "Come on, let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and it is very good. Why would you fail to act? Do not hesitate to go there and take possession of the land. When you enter, you will come to an unsuspecting people and a spacious land, for God has delivered it into your hand. It is a place where nothing on earth is lacking." So 600 Danites departed from Zorah and Eshtaol, armed with weapons of war. They went up and camped at Kiriath-Jearim in Judah. That is why the place west of Kiriath-Jearim is called Mahaneh-dan to this day. And from there they traveled to the hill country of Ephraim and came to Micah's house. Then the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land of Laish said to their brothers, "Did you know that one of these houses has an ephod, household gods, a graven image, and a molten idol? Now think about what you should do." So they turned aside there and went to the home of the young Levite, the house of Micah, and greeted him. The 600 Danites stood at the entrance of the gate, armed with their weapons of war. And the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land went inside and took the graven image, the ephod, the household idols, and the molten idol, while the priest stood at the entrance of the gate with the 600 armed men. When they entered Micah's house and took the graven image, the ephod, the household idols and the molten idol, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" "Be quiet," they told him. "Put your hand over your mouth, and come with us, and be a father and a priest to us. Is it better for you to be a priest for the house of one person, or a priest for a tribe and family in Israel?" So the priest was glad, and took the ephod, the household idols, and the graven image, and went with the people. Putting their small children, their livestock, and their possessions in front of them, they turned and departed. After they were some distance from Micah's house, the men in the houses near Micah's house mobilized and overtook the Danites. When they called out after them, the Danites turned to face them and said to Micah, "What is the matter with you that you have called out such a company?" He replied, "You took the gods I had made and my priest and went away. What else do I have? How can you say to me, 'What is the matter with you?'" The Danites said to him, "Do not raise your voice against us, or angry men will attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." So the Danites went on their way, and Micah turned to go back home, because he saw that they were too strong for him. After they had taken Micah's idols and his priest, they went to Laish, to a tranquil and unsuspecting people, and they struck them with their swords and burned down the city. There was no one to deliver them, because the city was far from Sidon and had no alliance with anyone. It was in a valley near Beth Rehob. And the Danites rebuilt the city and lived there. They named it Dan, after their forefather Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city was formerly named Laish. The Danites set up idols for themselves, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. So they set up for themselves Micah's graven image, and it was there the whole time the house of God was in Shiloh. Judges 19. Now in those days, when there was no king in Israel, a Levite who lived in the remote hill country of Ephraim took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But she was unfaithful to him, and left him to return to her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah. After she had been there 4 months, her husband got up and went after her to speak kindly to her and bring her back, taking his servant and a pair of donkeys. So the girl brought him into her father's house, and when her father saw him, he gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the girl's father, persuaded him to stay, so he remained with him 3 days, eating, drinking, and lodging there. On the 4th day, they got up early in the morning and prepared to depart. But the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh your heart with a morsel of bread, and then you can go." So they sat down, and the two of them ate and drank together. Then the girl's father said to the man, "Please agree to stay overnight, and let your heart be merry." The man got up to depart, but his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed there that night. On the 5th day, he got up early in the morning to depart, but the girl's father said, "Please refresh your heart." So they waited until late afternoon, and the two of them ate. When the man got up to depart with his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, "Look, the day is drawing to a close. Please spend the night. See, the day is almost over. Spend the night here, that your heart may be merry. Then you can get up early tomorrow for your journey home." But the man was unwilling to spend the night. He got up and departed, and arrived opposite Jebus, that is, Jerusalem, with his 2 saddled donkeys and his concubine. When they were near Jebus, and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Please, let us stop at this Jebusite city and spend the night here." But his master replied, "We will not turn aside to the city of foreigners where there are no Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." He continued, Come, let us try to reach one of these towns to spend the night in Gibeah or Ramah. So they continued on their journey, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin. They stopped to go in and lodge in Gibeah. The Levite went in and sat down in the city square, but no one would take them into his home for the night. That evening, an old man from the hill country of Ephraim, who was residing in Gibeah, the men of that place were Benjamites, came in from his work in the field. When he looked up and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going, and where have you come from?" The Levite replied, "We are traveling from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote hill country of Ephraim, where I am from. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord. But no one has taken me into his home, even though there is both straw and feed for our donkeys, and bread and wine for me and the maidservant and young man with me. There is nothing that we, your servants, lack." "Peace to you," said the old man. "Let me supply everything you need. Only do not spend the night in the square." So he brought him to his house and fed his donkeys, and they washed their feet and ate and drank. While they were enjoying themselves, suddenly the wicked men of the city surrounded the house. Pounding on the door, they said to the old